now 7 o'clock. All rise. Always going to say this. Okay, tonight we have with us the Premier and the Minister. Maybe we'll just go around the table. We'll introduce ourselves fastly. Eh? Okay, did that already? Okay. You guys know each other now, eh? First name basis, okay? Anyway, yeah, if we just want to start, I guess. Welcome to our community, and hope this is one of many meetings that we'll go through. So, thanks. Okay. At this point, I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Ferguson.
Great, thank you. I just want to take the moment and acknowledge that the land where we live, work, and play is the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples of the Salt River First Nation, Smith Landings First Nation, and the Métis from time of immemorial. Okay. There's no declaration of financial interest, so we'll go to our delegations. And I'll hand it over to Minister Green and Premier Cochrane.
So I want to thank you for inviting us to your meeting tonight, to your community, welcoming us in here. Always a pleasure to come to Fort Smith. It's a little bit warmer usually than Yellowknife, although this is the exception. I think Yellowknife is warmer. And I do have to put a word in for your MLA. I think your MLA is very strong in the House and very committed to Fort Smith and a great asset for your community. So I'm always an honor to be with her as well. So on that, I'm going to turn it over to Minister Green to see if she has anything. Probably share that.
Yeah, thanks, Premier. Thanks for asking us to meet with you tonight, and we're interested in what you have to say. And as the Premier said, it's a pleasure to be back here. I came for an ill-fated visit last summer, where I left Yellowknife intending to attend the Dark Sky Festival, but by the time I'd camped in Fort Providence, camped in Hay River, and got here, the second wave of COVID was raging and there was no Dark Sky Festival. But any visit to the Marcelluses and to Fort Smith is always a good time. And that was true for that visit too. So thank you again for having us, and we're looking forward to your questions.
Okay, I'll just read the questions that we have, or did someone want to ask these? Do you have a copy of the questions that we were looking at? Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll just go through the questions as we have them here, right? And so the first question that we have is, why are the highways and DPW managed from Hay River for Fort Smith? Infrastructure.
In honesty, this is the first time actually seeing these questions. When were they shared with my staff? For a while?
I'm not sure. I know that we've been working on these questions, so perhaps this morning.
Okay.
Perhaps April 7th, they were emailed out.
Okay. You got them? Do you have answers to them? Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to read the answers to you.
Okay. Do you want to ask me question 2 while she reads over her notes?
Sure, let's do that. So let's go
Okay.
ahead and so our question 2 was, the community needs to have more input into who represents us on our health boards, because quite often we have all these boards, but we don't know who those folks are.
So The primary community representation in your community of Fort Smith is on the Regional Wellness Council, and it's chaired by Phyllis Maudsley, as you probably know. The membership is on 2-year terms that are renewable. So there is a vacancy that will be up this year when Gloria Villebrun finishes her 6 years, which is the maximum term length on the Regional Wellness Council. And Linda Mabbitt will be finishing her second term, so she's eligible for a reappointment. The way we do this is we send a public notice. We put a public notice out that we're looking for members of the Regional Wellness Council. And I think what happened last year during the vacancies is that different stakeholder groups in the community suggested people, that is to say Salt River, the Métis, and I thought that the council had also suggested representation, but no. Okay, well, so if you have, I've got to be honest, it's not usually easy to fill these positions. So if you have suggestions for people who should apply, then by all means encourage them to complete the application form. It's online. If you Google Regional Wellness Councils NWT, you'll get a whole description of what the Regional Wellness Council does and the application form and the membership, the current membership. So we really depend in the days before the amalgamation of all the different health authorities. There used to be hospital boards, and maybe you had one as well, or if not, maybe a public administrator for your hospital. That was the model that was used before this amalgamation. Now we have these regional wellness councils in each of the 6 regions of the NWT, and the chair of the Regional Wellness Council is part of the Leadership Council for the whole of Northwest Territories Health and Social Services Authority. So now it used to be, well, now it's Phyllis Maudsley. Patricia Schaefer, it was previously. And so they attend quarterly meetings and they talk about issues that they've heard about in the community with the Leadership Council. And sometimes those issues are in common, as you can imagine. Take something like medical escorts. Everybody has something to say about that. So they would discuss that together. And I usually meet with the Leadership Council to get their input about healthcare and social services in their communities. Now, we also have an Indigenous Advisory Board. We have a Mental Health Advisory Board. So what we do in all those cases is we send out a call for the public to participate. Are you getting those notices? No. So maybe we need to put the SAO on the list so that she can direct the notices to whoever needs to see them, and then that way you can consider people that you would like appointed to those roles.
Okay, thank you. Is there Deputy Mayor follow-up?
Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Yeah.
A well-functioning health board is crucial to our community.
Yeah.
And that well-functioning health board should be engaging with the community. That means that periodically the chairperson should be coming in, engaging in with the town council, and also dealing with the Aboriginal governments. I just got voted into this position in October. Perhaps some of the councillors that have been here a little longer than I have could speak whether anybody has showed up from the health board to engage the council. But I know sitting on the Métis board for a number of years, there has never been any engagement in any way, shape, or form with us around the health board. So I think it's crucial as we move forward and wanting to have healthy dialogue that the person that's on that board come and engage with us and talk with. A lot of these problems, if they're met head on, can be solved at a local level without having to approach your office or the Premier's office to assist us. So I think it's very crucial to get that in that mandate and find out if there's any engagement with the councillors that have been here a lot longer than I have been. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. I am meeting with the Regional Wellness Council tomorrow, and I don't know if they have a proactive plan of the kind that you're suggesting, but I'm certainly happy to make that suggestion to them, that they take an opportunity to come and see council. I don't know how often. It sounds like there are probably 2 or 3 entities they need to meet with: the Métis, the Salt River First Nation, and with the town council. So maybe they could do each of you twice a year. They also, once they've approved their minutes, they are posted online. So the latest minutes are from February. They haven't met. They're going to meet tomorrow. So they'll go over their minutes, and once they're approved, they'll be posted online, and there's a record there of other deliberations that they've had. So I'm happy to forward that recommendation when I meet with them tomorrow.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Kevin Campbell here. I sat on that board for 2 years, and I just thought it was a waste of time for my time to be on that board, because all we heard was things handed down to us. Nothing that we spoke about or anything ever come back to us saying positive. It just, this is the way it's going to be done. There's no deviation off that or anything. We got to get more local. When we ask questions, we got to get some response and some things that make the betterment of the Fort Smith Health Center, for looking after our people. And I know it's all for the whole territories too, but we still got to get some response for Fort Smith people. Not just saying, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're doing. Just every 3 months you go to a meeting. It was good cookies and drinks, but that's all I found that board was worthwhile. Thanks.
I appreciate your comments, and I interviewed all the people who were leaving the boards last year throughout the NWT, and your reflection is on par with theirs. They question the value of it. I think one of the issues is that the Leadership Council has been collecting a list of action items, and it's now completely unmanageable because it goes on for pages. So what I have suggested to the Leadership Council is that they create a strategic plan, and they've taken me up on that suggestion. They're going to work on it next month, and I've suggested that they create 2 priorities that would be applicable across the NWT, but useful in a local context. So, for example, I've already said medical travel. I get complaints about medical travel from across the NWT. And the top issue that we have as a Department of Health and Social Services right now is recruitment and retention of staff. We are short-staffed almost everywhere. And that's something that we need to come to terms with. So that's, I'm not part of their strategic planning process, but it's something that I hope that they will come out with a couple of focused priorities where they can work on them and feel like they're making progress on them, both for the NWT as a whole and for them, for their communities that they represent. One of the tensions in the list of priorities is that almost all of them involve spending more money. The health authority is already in debt to the tune of $160 million with no way of paying that back. And so we are very reluctant to add to that debt. But sometimes money isn't the answer. Working smarter is the answer. And so that's where having the experience of people who live in the communities and what they experience from service is very valuable. So I'm hoping for better days ahead for the Regional Wellness Council, but I appreciate the time you did put into it.
Is there any other questions? Aseo? I don't see why not.
Sure.
Thank you. Normally I wouldn't, but so there's been a recent change in some services at the Health Authority. One in particular being the rehab services, particularly for speech and occupational therapy, and how those are being administered locally but across the territory, that are significantly concerning because one, they were not communicated in advance. As a parent who has children on the speech and OT list, I certainly haven't received any communication about that. And I know that in the general populace of the school age children, it was not communicated, and that the school has to apply for Jordan's principal funding for students to have direct services, and that would be the only way students would be getting direct services unless they have significant complex needs. But that's a very limited part of the population that Jordan's principal doesn't cover Métis children or non-Indigenous children who need services. And so that's a very concerning thing. Partly, I used to be an occupational therapist, so I have a very strong sense of the value of rehab services for school-age children beyond the age of 6, beyond early childhood. But I think the biggest problem, and I think this is the same thing with the moving to the CHIN system, is that there was no communication with the community about the changes in health and social services. Similarly, in regards to social services, there's not a lot of communication coming to the community anymore about how NTHSSA is addressing the report, the auditor's report in regards to health or to child and family services. So I think I just don't know if there's a more communication that could be happening, which is, what we found during COVID is that we were being expected to do a lot of the communication on behalf of the NWT. And that's challenging for us. I can't imagine how it is for smaller governments who have fewer employees. But this is a similar thing, is that people are asking us questions that we're not getting answers to, or we're not getting advanced information about. And if there are going to be significant changes in any of our government departments, those are the kinds of things that people ask us about. Right. And then they want us to advocate, but we're not getting any of that communication in advance.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, a few things there. One is that I knew the previous mayor quite well. And so I would give her a heads up by text about things that were happening. I obviously need the mayor's, and maybe yours as well, cell phone numbers, so that I can do that. I am interested in answering whatever questions you have that are, that you want to be told proactively. I appreciate that. So the problem we've run into with speech language pathology is a shortage of staff. We're terribly understaffed. And so we've really prioritized 0 to 5 so that children can be, to the greatest extent possible, school ready. But it's not like the needs end there. And I was on tour of the Delta last week, and I heard this as well, that there's this gap when kids start school, that they might have had more intensive association with rehab, and then it kind of drops off. And how do you fill that gap, especially, as you say, if you're not eligible for Jordan's principal? So we need more staff. So I'm sorry that you want to be an SAO instead of an OT, but there it is. We need you. The Child and Family Services, the last OAG report in 2018 produced a quality improvement plan, and it's all monitored online and reported once a year as a tabled document in the Legislative Assembly. So if you Google quality improvement plan, you'll see where we're at with all the different actions that we're committed to and where we are in the progress. The quality improvement plan ends this year, and so the next thing that I'm producing is a bridge plan that will take us into the next cycle. So I encourage you to look at that, because we've hired 56 new staff since 2018, and we've made a lot of improvements to Child and Family Services in response to the OAG, and also in response to the federal government's Child and Family Services Act, Bill C-92, which came into force in January of 2020. Now, Indigenous governments have the authority to write their own laws, as you may know, and the IRC have done that. And we're now negotiating with them on an implementation agreement. So how that's going to work is that they set out the values, priorities, principles, and we implement they're not going to hire the social workers. We have the social workers, but we are going to administer their law. Yeah, and it will be in sync with our law. We're going to work it out so that there's no conflict. And if there is conflict, the Indigenous law is the primary law. So we don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about how that's going to work. We do it their way. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Bolio?
Yeah, talking about medical travel and stuff, I'd like to bring up a subject about the seniors and when they do medical travel, especially the Aboriginal ones. English is their second language to a lot of seniors in the north. And what we've seen is the escort has been cut out. So they are going to medical trips on their own. And we've been getting reports of seniors that have very little English knowledge that have been waiting at the airport and don't know where their appointments are, don't know how to ask people to go to their appointments. And the thing is, we had excellent escort trips before where we got people in the community to go with people to speak for an advocate for the seniors. And another issue is talking about technology. Not everybody has a cell phone. Not everybody is in knowledge of how to use a cell phone. So a lot of our seniors are going to these medical trips and getting caught in not knowing how to deal with their medical trips, and they're coming back, or else they get to a point where they're scared to go alone and they're canceling their medical trips and not arriving to the medical trips down south. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the medical travel escort program actually hasn't been reduced. We spend $45 million a year on medical escorts. There are something like 18,000 medical trips a year. And the older the person is, the more likely they are to have an escort approved. That I can see you shaking your head. I mean, that's the research. But having said that, we find a couple of things. One is that people don't ask for escorts. And so we don't give them an escort arbitrarily. They need to ask for it. And secondly, some people have trouble finding someone to be an escort for them because their family members are at work or their family members are the same age they are and so have the same kinds of issues. I want to point out to you that there's an appeal process that was instituted in 2019 so that if someone has applied for an escort and they have someone to go with them and they aren't approved, then they can ask for their requests to be reviewed. So those are a couple of things that I can tell you that may be helpful. We don't want elders to be lost in Yellowknife or in Edmonton in the hospitals. We have Larga that provides some assistance, but they are not in the hospital, but they can pick people up at the airport. But I've heard that the hitch to that is that they now want you to call from the airport to say that you're there, which, back to the phone problem, that may not be an easy solution. So we're always interested in trying to make this a better system. As I say, I have had the odd call from someone who has an elder visiting Yellowknife for treatment, and they've lost touch with that person, and that's a panic. We don't want people to get lost. Not being able to speak English, having poor mobility are reasons to have an escort.
Okay, Councillor Boyle?
Okay, and just in response to your saying that you have the escorts and if they have requests to ask for escorts, in Fort Smith, we are very good to have a list of people that can go as escorts. They don't have to be family members.
Right.
They are local and they are available when somebody requests an escort or if they need an escort. What happened is because of the pandemic and stuff, I know that it has been refused to patients. It hasn't been used for the last year or so, a little bit more with the pandemic. They were given an option to go on their own. And like I said, a lot of these elders, English is their second language. So when you tell them they're going out of town they're not familiar with and not knowing how to take care of themselves in a city, they refuse to go. So, and now that I don't even know if we still have an escort here. I haven't heard of anybody. I know that there have been a couple of elders that went to medical and we're stuck at the airport for the day because not knowing who to ask and what to do.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. As I say, we could always improve that. Having someone miss their appointment because they have no one to ask to direct them in the right place, that's obviously not helpful to anyone.
Okay. SAO?
Sorry, Minister Green, could you just clarify, they have to request an escort or an escort is offered to them and they can decline the escort?
You have to request one.
So for an elder who might be struggling with understanding the implications of heading south or heading to Yellowknife with a language problem, would it not make more sense for the offer to be made, just like the language offers are made, to have an escort if they are if they qualify for one, versus having them to have to know they have to ask for an escort?
Well, yeah, this is between the patient and the healthcare provider. So, I mean, the healthcare provider may ask the patient if they want one, but I don't know that they do that as a matter of course. I need to follow up on that. But my hope is that there's a relationship there between the healthcare provider and the patient, and the patient, has the supports required to go on the. What does that face mean?
Well, I mean, in Fort Smith, we don't have a permanent, oh, sorry. In Fort Smith, we don't have permanent doctors, so it would be very hard for there to be a relationship between their healthcare provider and themselves in regards to knowing the patient and what the patient needs, and for the patient to feel confident asking a doctor, knowing that most elders consider doctors to be a higher power. And so being able to engage in especially our Indigenous elders, to be able to engage in a relationship with a doctor that doesn't have a power differential, and to know that they have to ask would be very challenging when it's somebody they've never seen before and they don't know from Adam or Eve.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
No, wait a second. Only one of these questions is mine.
But we're not done with it. There's lots of, yeah.
And I was going to extend the olive branch and let you know that we did have a very productive meeting with the COO, Sujata, on Friday afternoon, and some people were not present, so they were not privy to some of the conversations that
Okay.
we've had already.
Yeah.
So not to put you on the spot, sorry for that. And
No, that's okay.
it was great, and we are very grateful that Sujata came to provide that. And we did also have a presentation offered to us on medical travel for the community, and they did provide us with some pamphlets and some papers and
Okay.
that type of thing. But my question, and I'm sorry, is regarding the appeal process. Sometimes we get such a short notice, like you might get Friday at 4:00 that you're leaving on Sunday or Monday for your travel. And if you're denied an escort, how do you get an appeal process expedited so that you don't miss that meeting?
Well, medical travel is staffed on the weekends. So the appeal form is online. You fill it in, you send it in. And people never hesitate to call my office or email my office if they are worried about the timing. I recognize what you say. It is often almost last minute that you find out you're going, and then you find out, no, this escort's not coming with me. So I just want to reiterate that it's 24. Well, I don't think it's 24 hours a day, but it is weekends. And so if you can get the appeal form going, then they should be able to answer it right away. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, we're back to number one hot seat.
So good.
Why is DPW managed from Hay River?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll start with kind of explaining the difference between on how cabinet works, because I think there might be. I'm really sorry that Minister Archie, because we're here for a bilateral, and the infrastructure minister is in town, so I'm really sorry that that she didn't get an invite to this meeting, because these are all her questions. So I want to explain the difference. Some departments I know really well, because in the last government I was actually had 6 portfolios. So municipal and community affairs was one of them. And other departments I don't know hardly as well, because like infrastructure, because I never had that department. So I know that within town council, city councils, municipal councils, it's a bit different than cabinet. You usually sit around and you make decisions as a group, and your SAO provides things, and you might have a subcommittee, a committee that'll work on a certain issue, but things come back, and the main body of decisions is here. Is that correct? That's my understanding from, otherwise I waste a lot of time in municipal and community affairs. Cabinet is different in the GNWT. We have just 7 members, that's it. And we have the whole NWT, 33 communities to work with. So what happens is every minister has their own department. And we don't, as a cabinet, we don't discuss all the issues like you do in municipal government. We only discuss the issues that are financial changes or huge program changes. But each minister has their own direction to do what they want. In fact, the Executive Council Act, which governs us, doesn't allow the premier to tell ministers what to do. So people think that I have like this huge capacity and I can wave a wand and tell people what to do, and that I should know everything. The reality is then I would be a, what's that word called when you dictator. I've been called a dictator with COVID, so I would be a dictator. Life would be a little bit easier, but a lot busier. So my role is as the premier is executive and Indigenous affairs, which means I take care of I work with all the Indigenous governments. If there's areas that go across, I take care of the federal government issues. I take care of issues that go across all departments. For example, I was the minister of COVID when it first came because that affected everyone. So I was the minister of that. Right now, I've become the minister of Arctic sovereignty and Arctic security because of what's going on in Ukraine. So that's been my focus as well right now. I do apologize that if I would have seen this before, I would have actually said, Minister, can she come? But I just got back from Alaska on Sunday, so dealing with Arctic sovereignty and Arctic security. So I'll read these answers, but I'm really not comfortable doing that because I'm reading somebody's work. I'm not going to be able to answer your questions really wholesome. What I'll be doing is have my staff taking notes and getting back to you, but it's not really my comfort zone to do that because it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel right. So I'm just going to justify that to the beginning. So number 1, so why are highways and DPW managed from Hay River? So with the amalgamation of the Department of Public Works and Services and the Department of Transportation, continuing to have 2 regional centers in the South Slave was not cost effective. Public Works and Services had its regional center in Fort Smith, and transportation was centered out of Hay River. With the reduction, a new Sawtooth region was created as neither Public Works or Department of Transportation had one there previously. The rationale for establishing Hay River as the regional center of the South Slave region was due to the location of transportation infrastructure already in place, the office infrastructure already in place, and the central location to service all highways in the region. Prior to amalgamation, Facilities Management Hay River serviced the majority of the region. With the superintendent and the support staff all in Hay River, doing business out of one office became more cost effective. With the amount of transportation infrastructure, office staff already in place, and the central location to service all highways in the region, the Hay River location was optimal. The suppliers in Hay River service mining, marine transportation services, and the barging of supplies north create an extensive supply that infrastructure uses to maintain the fleet daily. One thing I do know, so that's the written answer that I have, just read verbatim, and we could have actually gave that to you in a letter. One thing I do know is at a cabinet level, we've been hit extraordinarily within the last 2 years with COVID. The money has just been flying out the door. I think you know that, all of us know that. I know municipalities have also felt some of that pressure as well with COVID. So when we first got elected into government, we had to increase our borrowing limit, and we're almost there again. So we don't have money. It's just what I'm saying. There is no extra money to throw around. I wish there was. In fact, if I knew what I was getting into, I think myself and maybe a lot of cabinet ministers would have said, no, we're fine on the other side. But we didn't. So we're trying to do the best we can with very limited resources. I do know that we also try to spread it out. Again, like I said, you have a pretty powerful MLA in power. enough respect. And so, you know, this facility looks like it's going to happen in Hay River, but I also know that you're getting the Mine Training Society, right? Mine Training Society?
Fire center.
Fire Center is coming here. So what I'm saying is that we do try to make sure that each riding has a little bit to survive, but we just don't have the money to have offices in every single community. So we're trying to do the best we can. Not the answer you want. I'll take your questions. If I can answer, I will. If not, I'll have to get staff to get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions? Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, before I get into this, I'd like to have your permission to speak freely because I'm one of the contractors that does all your painting in Smith, and this is going to go back to Hay River, so I don't want any repercussions to me.
You're the one on TV.
I know. I've asked him from the public, so. No, but one of the problems is with the infrastructure, and you probably take that to the minister. It's too bad that she couldn't join us, is every year we go through this is we put in roughly 250,000 over our Highway 5. So we can't be doing that all the time. What the problem is, it needs to be drenched, eh? Because there's a lot of water there. And there's a lot of beavers there. So the water comes up, eats your road away, and you're constantly fixing it. But there is no money coming from the department to dredge it. If we just dredge it once and for all and got done a good job, and then we wouldn't need the money to constantly patch and because if the GNWT gets the dirty thing, Hay River gets it, our highways department gets it, and it's really not their fault. It just dredge it. Because I know we're going through the same thing here in Kaiser's Canal, is we need to deal with the dredging because of our landslides. We seriously need to look at that. But it goes far beyond our point, where it goes right into Highway 5 and that. And there's a lot of washouts. And I worked for the department a few years ago as a water tank hauler. And it's scary because you don't know what's under that pavement, right? It's all washed out. And at one piece, there was a whole section of road that just washed right out just because of water. Like and you got 18 wheelers coming through there, and you got, mothers with their children and that. It's just, we need to really deal with it and do a one-time thing, and then we don't have to do it again until probably another 5 years where you got to look at dredging or something, or 10 years or whatever that space is in there. But leaving like this, we're going to constantly be sinking money into it, and it's never really being fixed right. The problem is the water. So I don't know, maybe we could focus on that. It's just we can't, like you said, the departments don't have the money anymore, and we got to look at new ways to keep our money. And then when COVID came out, I was mad at you as well. So because nobody wanted to work, right? Everyone had money. So I'm trying to pay some $40 an hour, pay all your taxes, still nothing. So I just want to bring it up to you. Okay, thanks.
That's okay. I'm not mad at you for being mad at me. Everybody was mad at me when COVID. I couldn't please anybody. Half the what I found in honesty was people in the South were saying open up, no masking, no restrictions, no nothing. I'm just being, not everyone, but the majority. And people in the North were saying you don't dare open up. In fact, we want you to lock everything down tight. And even to this day, like even when we did open up, it was really tough and for a lot of the Indigenous governments. So I hear you, and I also heard when you were saying with Minister Green, not that I'm trying to put you back on, but one thing I do agree is that all government departments, we don't do enough working with the communities, in honesty. We don't listen to enough. We're so busy and trying to just figure out which way is up that often the people that are really the stakeholders that live there don't have enough say. So I do know that when we faced some flooding on the highway earlier, Minister Archie, I think it was last year actually, Minister Archie didn't know the road system in the south. She's from the north, but she heard, and I think she even went down and looked at it, if I remember right. I might be wrong, but I thought she did. And things changed. So I will commit to bringing it forward to her. I've got staff that are already taking minutes, and I don't know if dredging is feasible, but if it is, I would sure let her know that that's the preferred way to do it. And if the dredging is going to fix the issue, then yeah, I'm all about making things work. So sometimes, again, I don't advocate for that either. Sometimes I find that government, we will take the easy way, but the easy way sometimes ends up being more costly. So I think that, in fairness, I think that I'll bring it to her attention, and she'll look at it and with her department and see about if we keep doing what we're doing and just doing these patchwork fixes, is that more cost effective, or does it make sense to dredge and spend a little bit more in 1 year, but actually save money over the long term? So that I'll commit to.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. DPW is going to be very important to this town, which means that we should have adequate supervision in this town to meet the needs. We are talking about a Polytech University here. There is a connection between the DPW work and what's maintained with the college. Having a person here supervising or managing our DPW department in Fort Smith, the fourth largest community in the Northwest Territories, is crucial. We are a tax-based community. Each and every job is crucial to us. Having somebody from Hay River who hasn't got the contact day to day here with us and able to respond quickly is not healthy, especially when we're trying to create the Polytech University and keep all of the infrastructure with the college in Fort Smith. I have some pictures in front of me here of a unit on 83 King Street. And if you go through them, I'll give them to you before you leave. You go through them. That is why it's so crucial to have somebody from DPW here to supervise this work, to go look at this stuff and ensure that when the students come to Fort Smith, they're welcomed with open arms. And part of those open arms is having adequate accommodations for them to stay here and enjoy their stay here and further their education and bring it back to other places in the north. And that, so why Fort Smith, the fourth largest community, has to be supervised by somebody else is beyond me. I can see the highways having a foreman here with very good experience, but I think DPW, because we want the success of the Polytech University, we have to have a manager here or a superintendent, whatever name is given to that position, and not be supervised by Hay River with a periodic trip here now and then. Thank you.
Thank you. Premier?
Thank you. Again, I'll bring that back to Minister Archie for consideration. I do know a little bit about the education file because that was one of my portfolios. I do know that when I was the education minister, Fort Smith was tough on me. I have to say that. But I said right through that I wouldn't, that Fort Smith, there was no sense. People were afraid. They were afraid because I was a minister from Yellowknife. And they were afraid that I was going to come and take the Polytech and make the headquarters in Yellowknife. At no time did I say that. No time did I intend to do that. And in fact, the new minister, Minister Simpson, is also from Hay River. He's not doing that either. So just if there's any fears around that, Hay River is strong, and that's, or Fort Smith is strong in having the Polytech. There's a commitment to that. We've said from all along, 3 strong campuses, 22 strong community learning centers. I will bring the infrastructure concern back, but I do want to say that I do know that Minister Simpson is looking at your residents, because I know that there's an issue with that. I know that it used to be an old residential school. Your MLA knows that as well. So he's just doing that work right now, is looking at your residences and seeing what, once we figure out what's needed in all the communities, then that will define what the building is. But again, it's a little bit diverting from the agenda, but I do want to again, commit to Fort Smith that there is no intent from this cabinet or from the last to take the headquarters from you. You will be the headquarters of the Aurora College. So
Thank you. Diane, or Councillor Cole had a question first.
Thank you for giving that assurance to us. And I know that we do now have a new college president, and we welcome Dr. Glenda Vardy-Dell with open arms. She was here before, and we've heard through the grapevine that she is moving here, but is there confirmation that her office will be here and she will be part of our community.
Good question. Now that I'll bring back. I don't know. What I do know is that it's only a term. It's only a short term because that whole board is going to be changing. That structure will be changing so that it's out of the government's hands. The whole goal of it is to make the Polytech University into an independent facility. Because you've always been at the whim of the GNWT, and that's not good practice. So I know that Minister Simpson right now is looking at, so this position that is there is only for about a year and a half. Then she'll go back to her old position, and it's only to pull back, to keep the structure going, to keep the transformation going, and to make sure the board is in place. Once the board is in place, then that position will be backing off as well. So.
Right, thank you. Deputy Mayor, did you have a question? No, that answers your question? Okay.
Kind of, not really, but best I could do.
Okay, and so are we moving on then? To question number 3, there has to be a better quality control on infrastructure projects that are used by the public. An example would be who oversees highway chip seal or bridge approaches? Because have you driven here? Drive here.
Actually, I ride a Harley, so yeah, I have rode. And actually, this road is actually from Fort Ray coming down. It's actually one of my favorite strips to ride, in all honesty. So, but you're right. I haven't come to Fort Smith. I kind of go through I pass it all. I go south when I'm on the bike. So, but I know that other ministers have come here. I think it's some gravel when you come, isn't there?
No, it's paved all
It's all paved all the way? Okay, well, that's not so bad. So no,
It
I
is
haven't
chip
been.
sealed all the way. However, there's large chunks of gravel because of the washouts. Like it's a
Okay.
pretty bad road.
I don't think there's any highway in the NWT that just is maintained and stays maintained. It's either flooding, washouts, or permafrost is like just eating up our highway systems throughout. It's just the reality of the North. I'm going to read the notes though, and then you can challenge me on the notes. And I don't usually do this. In fairness, I don't usually use notes from my own departments. I don't like to give notes, but it's not my department, so I'm going to read them in fairness. Highway conditions are continuously monitored to determine priority areas for improvement. Regular inspection and maintenance staff identify issues and maintain the highway safety. The chip seal overlay cycle is aligned to national standards. Work is done every 3 to 5 years and is based on highway conditions and traffic volume. The Highway Chip Seal Overlay Program includes 150 to 200 kilometers of territorial highways each year. Infrastructure Headquarters oversees the Capital Chip Seal Overlay Program. Highway standards specifics are followed for quality control work. Infrastructure regional teams also perform chip seal work as part of the regular maintenance work. The Fort Smith Highway 5 area is somewhat unique. Approximately 114.5 kilometers section of Highway 5 belongs to Parks Canada, with infrastructure maintaining this section of Highway 5 for Parks Canada. All bridges and culverts are safe. A rigorous inspection regime is undertaken on all bridges and culverts aligned to national standards. Conditions will vary each year. Each year, structural conditions changes, damages occur, natural deterioration with age, followed by the maintenance, repair, rehab, and replacement. What I'll say is, like I said in the beginning, though, that's the notes, that's the official thing. I don't think there's any highway in the NWT that doesn't need care. In fact, even the new one, the latest one that we did, the highway to Tuck, I mean, it was no sooner built and we already got problems with it. So we're struggling. I don't know what it costs to maintain them. I do know that when I was in the last cabinet, and I remember Wally Schuman being the infrastructure minister, told me that it was $50 million a kilometer for a highway to put in a highway. That's a lot of money. I don't know what it costs to maintain, but I know to build it, that's what he was looking at. So it's huge expense. And that's why we only do, like it says, 150 to 200 kilometers of highways every year. That doesn't seem like a lot of highway. Think about it. 150, that's like an hour and a half ride. Depends on what speed you go. but it's the cost again. So I'll open it up to questions or comments.
Is there questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. As with any project, it has to be overseen by somebody who knows what they're doing. Why we approach bridges in the Northwest Territories and become airborne can't be blamed on this and that. A lot of it has to go back to who's overseeing the job. The contractor doing it is doing it adequately, meaning that there has to be an engineer or somebody on site overseeing that. We are probably one of the few jurisdictions in Canada that'll pave and chip seal a road and then turn it back to gravel. That's kind of unique to do that. So it's with any infrastructure that is built, that is buildings, that is anything that we're spending the public dollar on, has to have adequate supervision and very strict supervision to make sure that everything meets the standards of the day. And that if you take a look at that road from here to the landfill, there was chip seal, what, 3 or 4 years ago? It's quite the ride. It's pretty hard in your suspension. So I think part of the question is that we have to make sure that we have people supervising the jobs, making sure they're done adequately, making sure that compaction, everything is done the way a highway should be built, not only on our highway infrastructure, but with other things too, with adequate supervision. That way the tax dollar goes and lasts a lot longer when we build stuff to a standard and make sure we have that. We can't have a person supervising a contractor then sitting in the bar with them drinking beer that night. It just doesn't work. It has to be somebody out there that is looking after the taxpayer's dollar and making sure that the work is of the highest standards required of the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Premier?
I agree. I'm not, I'm thinking you're talking about somebody in particular that I don't know about and I don't want to know about. But I do agree that every job needs to be supervised and every job needs to be done within a quality control framework. I also know that we're hard on our highways. My husband is a trucker and he does talk about we build these roads and because of what we're dealing with in the Northwest Territories is we don't let them settle enough. We just kind of build them and we're using them right away. And that's not good practice, according to my husband. So, but that's the reality that we face. We don't have enough roads to communities. And so we're just always trying to catch up. Again, I'll bring that to the Minister of Infrastructure, Minister Archie. I'm hoping that she'll take it seriously. And if there is an issue with the supervision here, then she'll bring that to her department and the Deputy Minister will address that appropriately.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? I just want to make them, if I can, Parks did resurface their 80 kilometers of road, 3-4 years ago, and it's awesome. So maybe if you take a note of their contractors and what they've done, that section of road is like you're driving on butter. It's beautiful, and it's lasted and is not in need of repair of the same time of things being repaired. So question 4, NTPC rate increase. It's just what the heck? It's a statement. Like, what are we going to do about this?
Thanks. I feel like I'm back in the NWT Métis Nation meeting because that's one of their questions. So, so I'm going to read the notes of what she's got here, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. So, NTPC has applied in its current GRA general rate application to increase the power rates in the Tolleson rate zone by 10% in 2022-23 and a further 10% in 2023-24. That's what you all know. The Tolleson rate zone applies to Fort Smith, Fort Res, Aleutian, and Hay River, that you know as well. The Tolleson zone rates do not cover the cost of providing power in the zone. This has been the case for many years. Ratepayers from other zones have been subsidizing the Tolleson zone. something you don't know. I mean, when I came from the Métis Nation, they had thought that the Tolson zone was supplementing the rest of the NWT. It's actually the opposite. The Tolson zone has the lowest power rates of any zone in the NWT. Even after 2024, when the increases are done, the Tolson zone will still have the lowest rates in the Northwest Territories. This is probably going to go over probably as well as it did in the Métis Nation meeting that we just had, but we can't keep operating at a deficit. The Tolson's taking a beating. Like I said, the rate zones have been the cheapest in the NWT. Other zones have been supplementing this area. I know that the Tolson's on your land. I've heard that argument over and over. However, the Tolson's in trouble. We haven't done the rate increases. I was in the last cabinet. I know we talked about it there and we said no because everybody wanted to get reelected. It was not a good move, although I'll get some flack for that, but it's the truth of what I believe. I believe it's always better to put a little bit in the pot all the time and add it up versus it saying, no, we're not going to touch it because I want to get reelected or whatever the reasons are, and then end up with something like this. However, if we don't increase the rates, we need major capital done at the Tolson. We need major maintenance done for the Tolson that we can't afford. And so we're going to have to be able to do this to be able to pay for the rate for what we're using now. And even, like I said, even what the notes say, even after 2024, you'll still be the lowest rates in the Northwest Territories. That's the reality of what we're facing. And I apologize for that. I know that Métis Nation didn't like it. I apologize not because we're raising it. I apologize that we're having to raise it all in one time. I do think that it would have been better if we would have done it over the years, a certain amount every year. Like municipal governments, you raise your taxes. I know that. Everybody raises taxes. But hopefully you don't do it in wait 10 years so that you guys can, look good. And then all of a sudden say, okay, we're raising it by 50%. So like Yellowknife, yeah, and that's what happens. So, I do apologize that it's happening this way. If I could do this, turn back time, then I would have fought harder. I'm one vote on cabinet at the time, and now I'm no vote in cabinet. But I would have fought harder and said no, raise it a little bit every year.
Thank you, Premier. Questions? SAO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Premier. Couple of questions. It has been suggested to me that government agencies in Fort Smith, in particular, pay a lower rate than government agencies, government offices in other parts of the Tolston power area. So, is our government offices shouldering the burden adequately and equitably to other agencies and the other users in the region? And I think it's really important. So one of the things that we have an issue with is we have an electric boiler in our arena, and we regularly get asked to turn it off during the season so that we can have to go back to diesel because Tolston isn't providing us with power. So it's very unfortunate because there's obviously a push around climate change and there's a push around each community having a community energy plan, but we're going to be priced out of this. We can't, we don't know if the power is going to be consistently available. So as a homeowner or a business owner, can I put an electric boiler in? Will I have power? And is it financially feasible for me to do so? And if we're not going to be able to ensure that people can access these power sources, then we're not going to be reducing our footprint, our carbon footprint, right? And that's a really important thing for us as a community to be thinking about, and the territory in general being one of the highest risk areas for the impacts of climate change. So I just wanted to bring those few things to you because we got greenhouse gas funding from the government to put in electric boilers, but I don't know if we can because I'm not sure we're going to consistently get power for those boilers.
Thank you. Premier.
Thanks. I should know better. I do the same as chair. It's like, wait till I acknowledge you. I don't know if anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if I have anybody from the department here. No?
No one from the department here, but we could chime in if.
Okay, yeah, so if you know, so I'm going to say what I believe is correct, and then Charlene has been with the government for a long time. She's my principal secretary, so perhaps she can correct me if I'm wrong, Charlene. It's actually so government, my understanding is that government departments actually subsidize residents. We pay actually more as a government for the cost of power, for the cost of heat, for the cost of most things, because we're the government. Not sure why, but because residents can't afford it. It's just blatant. So if the government is paying a little bit less here, I didn't know that. That could be true because of your rates, but they're still paying more than residents in the area are. So that's correct, Charlene. Is that what you know? Hey, look at that. Bingo. The other thing with alternative energy, I was public works at one time for like 2 months, way back 6 years ago. And it was at that time, it was just, it wasn't even public works. It was called, what was it called back 6 years ago? It was just taking care of boilers in the,
Public Works Services.
okay.
Yeah, it's
It was more taking care of government programs, more boilers and some stuff. So I said, what do I know about boilers? I'm a social worker, but I was really interested in the alternative energy. What I do know about any kind of alternative energy sources is that I'd love to be able to say that you can put boilers in, that we can do solar panels, that we can do off the grid, that we can do wind turbines and all that stuff. But the reality is we can only allow a certain amount because we still have to pay for all of the infrastructure, all of the costs, all of the maintenance for your Tulsan. So if we allowed people to just go totally off grid, which I know a lot of people, usually people with higher incomes, want to do. I get that fight in Yellowknife. We get that fight all the time. That would be beneficial to them. But you know who's going to pay that? Your lower income families are going to pay that because we still have to. We have the exact same cost for your power, for your energy, as without those alternative energy sources. So that's the reality of what we're dealing with. Is we want to be a green economy. We want to get off diesel. We want to be more cleaner. Electricity is cleaner energy, but we also need to make sure that we maintain the infrastructure that we have. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions? Oh, any questions you guys are open for?
Go for it. If I don't know, I'll ask Charlene. She's
All
like,
right,
I'm
so-
joking.
Councilor Campbell.
Okay, and hiring policy. How come you guys go with 1-year term positions? Because some of our positions here lately have come out to be 1-year term positions, and the guys don't want to apply on it, or the girls, because they're 1-year term position. They're leaving a full-time position to go to a 1-year term. And then our people in Fort Smith here can't advance up in the system because they're scared if they don't get anything after that 1-year term position. What's the rationale behind 1-year term position when the other position was indeterminate at all times?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. There's a number of reasons for that. You'd have to kind of give a specific example. Some of them are because a lot of them is because we do a lot of pilot projects. So MLAs will say we want this, we want this done, but again, we don't have money for things. So we'll do 1-year terms to see if they'll work that program. Some of it's like COVID. We hoped COVID wasn't going to be around forever. It's going to be around for a long time. But when we first started that, all those positions were only term because we only thought it'd be a few months. So it really depends on the positions. It depends on the budget of the department. It depends on the minister of the day. There's a million different reasons why it could be, well, maybe not a million, but there's a lot of different reasons why they're term positions. In saying that, I would never recommend to anybody to leave an indeterminate position to go to a term position. That doesn't seem like the best strategic move, unless it's really something you love. But I would tell anybody who doesn't have a job with the GNWT that wants to get in, apply for that term position, because getting your foot in the door is often the best way to get a job. So.
Okay, follow up?
Yes, that's the problem. When they get their foot in the door, Then the local person after that year term can't get his own foot in there because he had no experience on that job. The person that comes in here and wants to get in the system applies on that position, then he's all qualified up for the positions. Is it all right if I tell where these positions are? The health center. There were just two of them out and they both went to 1-year term positions. And there's a lot of tradespersons in Fort Smith that could do those jobs, but they're scared to go over to the 1-year term position, leaving good jobs and to move up in their career advancements. Fort Smith, we don't have many places to move up in the career advancements, but that's where people come in and plan on these jobs because they're only a 1-year and they're getting the experience to move on. Then they move right into that job. That's where I'm asking about why is the rationale about these jobs now. Thank you.
All right, Premier?
I think I would do a thing while Minister's writing it down. So I think that I hear what you're saying is that people don't want to take the term position because it's not secure, and that somebody who grabs that term position that might not have been in the government forever and a day takes that term position, and then they automatically have the training when it does become permanent. That's what I'm hearing you say. That's the reality. I don't know if Minister Green, do you want to talk on that one?
I don't know anything about these positions or why they are now term rather than indeterminate. I'd have to get back to you on that.
So I think it's a matter, you can, if you see it happening constantly in a specific department, then it's advisable to probably write to the minister and ask that question. Again, like I say, sometimes we do things as a pilot. We'll say, okay, we're going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, we're taking it off the books. And if it does work, then we'll make it indeterminate. That's the reality of I'm not sure how to say that, but it's like any job in any market. In the NGO world where I come from, in the private market where you work, if you have a job and it's only for a short term and you get somebody, if you have somebody, I'll use my husband's work with trucking. So he's been working with a trucking company in Yellowknife forever and a day. He does his job and he's secure in his job. Some people come in and his boss will need somebody for a couple of months. They'll take that job for a couple of months. My partner's not going to take that because he doesn't want to lose what he's got. And then that person takes for a couple of months. They do a good job and they got a permanent job. That's how life works sometimes. So I'm not sure how to fix it is what I'm saying. Tell me how to fix it. How's that? Give me the answer.
Put it out to indeterminate positions because nobody wants to apply from Fort Smith, all of Fort Smith wants to apply on the job because it's only a 1-year position. They are both maintenance positions. There's people in Fort Smith that could do those jobs. I did it, and if I could do it, anybody could. So, but I'm just saying, there's people qualified in Fort Smith, but they don't want to leave some paying jobs as is from a contractor, from me, and to move into a government thing because it's only for 1 year. It's not, and the people that are taking those jobs are from outside of Fort Smith and walking into them. And after the year, I could just see them walking right into that position, and nobody from Fort Smith has any chance of even moving up or securing a good government job. That's where I'm saying. Thank you.
Premier?
Okay, I hear you. I see the Minister of Health is writing it down, so I'm sure she's going to look into that. I think that what I will say is we'll get back to you on that because you're right. I mean, if they're jobs that are necessary, then we need to look at that. If it's, like I said, if it's a pilot project or if it's a short term, that makes sense to me. We can't change that. But if they're a job that's going to be there forever, then we need to look at what's going on.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
I think we got to look at these things with open eyes. When you give a person a job that's only been here for a week or a couple of weeks in town, and you bypass the local P1s and P2s, the person that is going to go look at that job already knows somebody else has been given that job that just came to town a short while ago. It's given that job. Our P1s and P2s know that that job is going to go to that person after a year. There is no chance that that job after a year is going to go back out to competition. It's going to be given to that person. It's already set up for that person. And that person is given that job. And anybody else who dreams of getting it or even thinking of getting it, there's no chance in hell, if you pardon my language, that they're going to get it. That job is already given to them. That's why they eliminated the opportunities for any of our local P1s and P2s to get that job. And that is where the problem is. And there's no consequence for the person that has done that. They just go on their merry way. And we say, oh, it happened once. Well, we're not going to let it happen the second time. But then it happens the second time and it happens the third. Because if there's no consequence for people that just flout the policy we have, it's a GNWT policy to do this. It's the individuals that are not following the policy. It's the individuals that are depriving people of opportunities in these positions. And that is where they got to be held accountable. And you don't want to hear my feelings on what should happen to them.
Thank you. Premier?
Okay, I'll start with saying, you don't need to apologize for swearing. I live with a trucker. I already told you that. So, yeah, you're right. It does happen. I'm not foolish enough. I'm old enough to know that those things do happen. And I'm also old enough to know that we're not going to be able to solve it overnight. What I can say is that we're taking it really seriously as a government. Not only the cabinet, but also the MLAs have been beating us with a stick. Your MLA's on it all the time talking about affirmative action. Is that right, Frida? That is correct.
Molly correcting cabinet.
Always. But there has been some change. Again, that was brought up by the Métis Nation today. Direct appointments that come through cabinet are really getting scrutinized in this government, to the fact that any minister that brings forward a direct appointment, if they're not a P1, we are challenging them. We're challenging them on P2s. No offense. But if they're a P3, that minister is going to take a beating at the cabinet table and really have to justify.
Has to be very specialized work.
Very specialized work.
Yeah.
To the point that, again, the Minister of Finance had stats today. Usually I'm really good with numbers, but it's late in the day. I know that it was over 90% of the direct appointments in the last 2 years since we've been in cabinet have been P1s and P2s. Over 70%, I believe it was 71% or 73, over 70% of those direct appointments have been Indigenous P1 hires in this last 2 years. So we're not great, but we're doing a lot better than it was previously. And it's something that we're always looking at. The other thing is the Minister of Finance has done, it's in her priorities, it's in her mandates, and she's doing all kinds of new programs to be able to get more Indigenous people employed. That's a priority of hers. It's a priority of this cabinet. And I think I can make a commitment that what we can do, if you'd like, is we can actually give you get finance to do a breakdown of all the new Indigenous employment strategies that have come up, and we can share it with your SAOs if you'd like that as well, so that you know. But it's still going to happen, no doubt.
Thank you, Premier. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none then. Is that a yes? Yes. Okay, Mayor.
You got to use that thing. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, just getting back to the NTPC, I'd much rather sit down with communities and work towards getting people on electrical, right? On electric heat, because we tried at some point, really didn't come up with a number. I'd rather sit down, let's crunch some numbers, let's play with this for a while, and see to the public, which number is the magic number that people could live with, so that people could go on to electric heat. Okay. The other thing in Tulsa, you don't have enough power there. Remember when Joe Hanley was premier? So we were looking at it. It was a three-way triangle. I think back was 2000 or something, early in my early days as chief. But the problem there was they wanted to do one gorge. And I'd argue with Joe is no, that's just totally wrong. If you're going to get into power, make a splash. Take on both of them, because it's far more easier trying to get money in here on a bigger project than it is a smaller project. Nobody wants a small project. It's not enough money. They got to make money. What I wanted to do was get both Gord Rudzing plus Tulson, and there you just become NWT Power Kings. Now take that and sell it to the States. I don't care who it is in the States wants to cook, let them turn their stove on, because we're in the game for money, right? That's all we're interested in. But yeah, and that never did take place. So now I think they're at it again, right? I believe they're at it again, trying to get that one gorge going. But I'm back to my old thing is like, no, just do two of them. Don't play around here. Do two of them. And then borrow the money. And I think at that time we did have a company that was going to lend us the money, and it was over a 50-year payout, same thing as Tulsa used to have before. And that was the Bank of Hong Kong. They're going to fund both gorges with a 50-year payout. But like if we're getting it into power, I mean, it's okay to be greedy sometimes, and become power kings overnight. And sometimes you just got to push it. And I don't know, me, I don't like taking no for an answer, and I want something, I want it tomorrow. Like I'm pushy, right? But life doesn't work that way all the time, as I'm finding out here. I got here, I didn't want to be here either because it's so different. It's different from being chief. Chief, like, get it done by Friday. Report back to me. Good. You there. And here you can't, right? And I think our MLA went through the same difficulty things that, no, this is a totally different world to us. And we got to wait for people. We got to first reading, second reading, third reading. Like, holy smoke, we missed a month and a half here. Like, come on, guys. Like, we can't do this too often. So anyway, no, those are the things I would like to do is, for the Power Corp, let's get down to crunching numbers. What is it going to take for that secret number that everyone's comfortable living with, and start moving on people on electrical heat? Then people will buy in. At least we're getting somewhere. We're here. It's a bad timing. We're coming out of COVID. I realize the government needs money because of COVID, and you took a lot, GNWT money in there, which hurt us small business because we couldn't find workers. But anyway, but I'd like to get to that, crunching those numbers. Retake a look at Tulsa. Is it better to do two gorges? If we're gonna do it one time. Take a shot at it. Is it better? Can we get the money? I'm pretty sure we can get the money. If it's not in Canada, it'll probably be in London or Bank of Hong Kong again. But there's people out there that'll do it, and it's all payback. So those are the things I would look forward to. And I know, like, NCPC was supposed to do our power polls, and you come in here, there's this one here supporting this one and everything, and they were supposed to do that a long time and never got around to it. So now that that's not fixed, now they want to raise, but we still have our own issues here. And I imagine it would be that way in other communities as well. It just, people want to see something, then just take something. And you're absolutely right. We tax people, well, they want to see something, right? So, and then that's a hard challenge. And like you, I'd much rather be a dictator than listening to other people, right? That's where I come from. We're two of a kind, trying to work something out here. But no, those are the things I want to bring up. At least if we do it that way, I think it'll be a lot better for all communities throughout the north. And even though if you did it, we're still going to be the cheapest one. Yes, I believe that. But we need to get to a point that's livable. We need to go somewhere. And if we never start that, then we keep on pumping this paper out, news out. Oh, we're going to reduce emissions. Yeah, but we never do. It's just talk. It's like federal government. It just talk. People get tired of that. You got to come to some kind of conclusion and walk down that path. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy path. It's a new way, right? So there's all kinds of difficulties coming, but we all need to go there in the same time. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So thanks. And before I go, thanks to our MLA for lining all this up. She's been a great help to us. So I forgot to say that in the first end. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I think the mayor has some gifts for our delegates. If you want to go present those.
Can I just make a suggestion based on what you just said? I chair the committee of cabinet that is about energy and climate change. And Corey Strang is the new president of NTPC, and he is a genius explainer of their long-term plan, the deficiencies in the current system, and what it's going to cost to get it from where it is to where it needs to be. So I want to recommend that you invite him to come and visit you and talk about the future of NTPC. He's a great speaker, and he's a born and raised NWT person. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I'd welcome that. Just like I said, I really want things to happen that, and if we leave it for 20 years, well, I'm not going to worry about it, right? So I'm probably not even going to remember it my age. So it needs to be sooner. Thanks.
I was wondering if we could just make a motion to have a 10-minute break, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Yeah. Okay, we're on a 10-minute break.
All right, folks, that 10 minutes is up. We got a long meeting ahead of us. Let's get together.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Dictator.
Yep, dictatoring it up. There you go.
Just like, are we where we went on? Were we on?
Yeah. Okay, so we are now at, so I need someone to review the agenda and make a motion, please.
I move that the agenda is reviewed and accepted as amended. Sorry, that the agenda is reviewed and accepted as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion? SAO, you had an amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add 2 amendments. One is in regards to the housing study. So to put the housing study under administration, the 3rd item under administration, as well, council received a request for donation. We didn't have time to do the briefing note, but I would like to just discuss it with council and see whether or not you'd like a briefing note. Housing study.
I'll accept that change.
I'm okay with the amendment.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Agenda has been accepted. In your package, there's the minutes from the last meeting, there are vision and values, our community service master plan, and the economic development, all for your review. So moving on the agenda, we are at the director's reports. And I am going to ask SAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to pass this on to Mrs. Colucci. We're not going to spend too much time on the stats part. We actually want to talk to you more specifically about the childcare subsidy program, just so that council has a good understanding of that as part of the director's report. So she'll just touch on the stats, but she wants to spend a bit of time with you on the childcare subsidy program. So council will be able to answer community members' questions in a very informed way.
Thank you. Yes, so if you've looked through the stats, if you have anything standing out to you that you have questions about, don't hesitate to ask and I can answer them. Our numbers are rebounding nicely post 3rd wave of COVID. So it's great to see people back in our facilities. A big shout out to the Fort Smith Skating Club, and Carnival last month was a huge success. It was so wonderful to see that arena full. The stands were full, people were happy, and our skaters in town got to perform at Carnival for the first time in like 3 years. So it was a beautiful thing. It was such a beautiful thing. And we had lots of the community out for that. Also a big shout out for minor hockey putting on a recreational tournament right squeezed in at the end of the season. So it was really nice to see that we had some folks come from Hay River. We got to play some actual hockey games with them. It's a sign for hopefully brighter days. Our arena did not make it to our extended opening, but we still made the best use that we could up until closing. Library, I guess I'll move on to childcare first because that's comes with that one. So the rate reduction subsidy that's coming in, we have signed on to, we have the contribution agreement signed now so that there will be subsidized, our fees will be subsidized for children 5 and under. So with this new program, there is a cutoff. Children 6 and over do not qualify for the subsidy. So what this means for us is that when we have children attending our after school program, some will receive it, some will not. So if you do get questions from families who have multiple children in the program, some children may be charged one rate, the families will be charged one rate for one child and a different rate for another child. So the rationale behind that is, I mean, they're getting this program out, they're trying specifically, similarly to some of our OT and speech language, they're targeting children under the age of 5. This is where we see the greatest amount of development in children. But then we're seeing this gap, as we discussed before. So as you all well know, no one's going to leave their 6-year-old at home alone, or their 7-year-old, or their 8-year-old even. Like this is, children older still need care. And that's the case that parents will make to us as well. So that's important when we're factoring this in. It is not catching everybody. It is not giving everybody the same support necessarily. So part one. The daycare, there are maximum funding amounts that can come for each month, depending on the type of space that exists. So for us, the maximum amount that we can receive per child is $465 per month. So if you look at our childcare fees, this is not a 50% reduction. This is definitely not $10 a day daycare. So when you start, I'm glad you caught that. So this is being touted, and that is the goal. The goal is $10 a day daycare, $10 a day childcare. But when you start looking closer at these documents, the goal is an average of $10 a day daycare by 2025, 2026. So that's a start. The goal for this year is an average of 50% reduction across the territory. Our fees are not being reduced by 50%. The subsidy is being applied equally across the entire territory. There's no consideration at this point given to centers that we did, but again, it's not her portfolio. So it would have been tough for us to, sorry. Okay, back to the point. So what this means, we are not getting to a 50% reduction. And I don't think we're the only center in that situation. But what we are is one of the only centers that is paying beyond, like we are not just paying a living wage. We are paying a wage that people can thrive on. They can stay here, and it's not just about scraping by. They are truly living. This is a really important factor here. There is a plan to produce a wage grid with this subsidy that will be applied to centers across the territory. We will not be able to change our wages based on a wage grid because our employees are, I'd have to double check my facts on this, but I am like 99% sure we're the only daycare center that is unionized. Our workers are unionized. They have health benefits. We're not the only ones that have health benefits. Cat Lodice has health benefits and pension, and that's a fairly new development within the last 3 years or so. But we are the only ones that have unionized workers. And we are paying a comparable rate to what they would make at the school in one-on-one workers at the school and TAs at the school. So we are already, we've taken what needed to be done with childcare. One of the issues with childcare that needed to be solved was being able to retain staff and being able to pay people what they're worth, pay them for the training that they've gone through and for the work that they do. And we've accomplished that, but we're not seeing that funding coming. So the funding that we are getting right now is only to deal with parent fees, to reduce fees, but we are not seeing a subsidy yet to kind of make up that gap that we have between our wages and our fees. There is a plan for a staff retention grant. So another separate pot of funding coming through to deal with an increase in wages, which we don't need the increase in wages, we need the reduction of parent fees. So to give that picture, what we're getting right now, it's a set limit, $469 per month. It will reduce parent fees for a full month for a full-time spot to $900 a month. So it's I should say this is a great thing that there is funding coming. Subsidized childcare is a great thing. but I just want us to be fully aware of what that means for our daycare center. So it's not going to mean that we make the revenue won't be changed. It's just about the service that we're giving to the community. And so that we know when parents are wondering why we're not at $10 a day, it's because this plan is actually not set up for us potentially to reach that in the scope of this plan. It also does affect our flexibility with the way that the funding has to come through. Sorry, it's a lot of information all at once. It affects our flexibility in how information and how we can access the funding. So we have tried to be flexible to meet the community needs. That means that we've had full-time spots, we've had half-day spots, and we've also had drop-in spots. And they've been well utilized. With this funding, the administrative load that comes with applying every single month for the funding, because that's what it will be, it makes it very difficult to stay that flexible. And I would say we will not be that flexible. It's going to be very challenging. And it also gives this strange scale of some people may have access to it and some drop-in spots may not have access to it. If people enroll their child halfway through a month, they may not get the subsidy. Like there's a lot of questions that still have to be answered because this is early days. But again, I'm giving you the information that I have. And I think one of the overarching things that I just want to make sure is established and is very clear. The funding structure is still based on it's not based on what we are licensed for. So our funding changes every month, every year, and it's all about reporting who is there and when. It's just like our O&M funding in that respect. Our O&M funding is attendance based. So even though we have our staff and we pay them every day that they're there and we are open, if a child doesn't attend the program because they want to take a vacation, their family just wants to keep them home for a day, anything like that, we lose that funding for that day. Our O&M funding is lost based on attendance. I can't send my staff home. I can't send my staff home and be like, well, today we only have 10 children, so we don't need you, and I'm not going to pay you. We can't do that. So just so it's very clear, like the funding structure is set up and very much based on attendance of a program. But the structure of a program is only successful if it is consistent, if it is reliable, and that consistency and reliability hinges on us knowing what kind of funding is coming in and having these sliding scales of funding, which I am concerned that the staff retention grant will be as well. It makes it very difficult for us to know year to year what we're dealing with. And I know there are changes coming to O&M. This has been brought up in the past, but that's what we're dealing with right now. Our funding is not based on our license, even though we will staff so that we can have 16 children in the daycare. Hopefully, as the renovations are finished, we will also add 6 infants to that. And we can have 20 children in after school, which again, has to be staffed for. The fight comes with we need that funding to continue operating in this sense. And whether we have a full group that day or not a full group that day, our costs are the same. So that's kind of where we're at with the funding. Again, this is a good thing that funding is coming. It's a step in the right direction, but thinking critically about what we're signing on to and knowing the info. We are informing ourselves. If we don't inform ourselves, then mistakes are made and there's no excuse. We will not remain ignorant to this, right? Because that's how we can make change. So that's what we're dealing with at this point. And this will be administered so it's retroactive to the start of the year. So from now on, the fees will be reduced based on this. But it's a 1-year agreement at this point. And that's kind of the update. And our daycare is full. I have a waiting list longer than what we can enroll. Like we can enroll 16 kids, and I have a waiting list of more than 16 kids at this point. So
Okay, thank you for that. SAO?
I just want to point out that poor director is kind of frustrated by the process. She and I did meet with the manager of the program 2 weeks ago before I went on leave around the subsidy, because we did not get any direct communication acknowledging that we're different than other childcare situations in that we already pay a competitive wage in a unionized environment. There's been no direct communication with us about how this program will impact us. And we certainly have parents that are expecting to get significantly more return for their first 3 months of childcare than they are actually going to get, because, and we told them this, you've got to really stress this average thing, because not all the childcare facilities are going to get to $10 a day. Not all the childcare facilities this year are going to get a 50% reduction. And we're not, and we can't. We've established that unless we're paying a competitive wage to what the TAs are making in the school system, we can't get people to work, right? Because the school system, there's no prep work, there's no wiping bums, there's no, it's a bit of a cushier job than our childcare. And our childcare people, we're required to have qualified childcare providers that require a education. So we've got to, continue to pay them what their value is in helping to raise healthy young people in our community and ensuring they're ready for school. So it's a very complex system. And I think it's really important that if you guys have questions that come to you from residents, that if you're not sure about that, just remember that it's not as clean cut as the government made it sound at the beginning, or cabin radio made it sound at the beginning. It's really not going to be as easy or as inexpensive as it appears.
Thank you, SAO. Question, Councillor Kroll.
Okay, so with the subsidies coming, will this impact, I'm going to ask the question that's sitting out there, will that impact our revenue stream? Will that increase cost to our taxpayers for providing the service?
SAO?
No, so it will, we are only reducing the amount that our subsidy costs. So it's going to go from 65 to 40, 45, because that's what the subsidy covers.
Thank you. Councillor Kroll, follow up?
And yeah, that it's great. I mean, childcare is desperately needed in Fort Smith. It's definitely a deterrent for getting people to come to Fort Smith or being able to be in the workforce and that type of thing. When the town took on, and this, I'm just asking because of my ignorance on this matter, is when the town took on the childcare, did it have a timeline on that, or did we have a business plan with it, or any type of thing that way?
SAO?
No, because the society that was previously trying to get a daycare going, pretty much over the 5-year period of time established that in order to be able to make a childcare facility work in the community, that a not-for-profit could not effectively do it. And I think we see that in places like Yellowknife, where they constantly have turnover of staff because they can't pay enough and there's no benefits. And, so, the 5 years of them they repeatedly employ people, find a facility, get additional funding. At one point they were trying to bring in foreign workers. It's not working that way in Fort Smith. So there is no timeline. As long as Fort Smith needs childcare and it's not being provided elsewhere, I think the intention of the previous council was that we would continue to provide childcare until it became not required by us anymore. I don't know when that might be.
Thank you, SAO. Any other questions? All right, seeing Kevin? Okay. All right, seeing none, did you want to go back to any other reports, or just if we have questions to follow up? All right, so, yeah. All right, so then going on now to our economic development. Oh, no, yeah, we did that. Okay, economic development reports. If we could SAO.
Thank you. I think what I will ask the director to touch on is the report with more information on the Small Communities Employment Fund that the EDO prepared for you.
Yeah, so I know this came up last week's meeting as well. So these are the numbers that we were looking for. So with the Small Communities Employment Support Program, so this was the first year that we administered it, and we were businesses were applying for $25,000 grants, and we ended up creating 26 jobs in the community. So if you look at the chart at the end, full-time jobs were 9, part-time jobs were 4, seasonal jobs were 13, and it ended up coming to $204,000 added to businesses in the community. The businesses that it supported, based on the categories, included things like construction, tourism, manufacturing, aesthetics, vehicle repair, retail, and municipal services. So this was it was very successful for a first year. It was a new project that we were taking on, and now this year we're again looking for applications for businesses in the community so that we can get a sense of what businesses in our community need, how we can create these jobs for people, and we're waiting to see what the type of interest is. And so last year we were giving the maximum of $25,000 for each time, and if there's a greater application base, we can possibly adjust that to try and give as many businesses as possible what they need.
SAO.
Thank you. And I'll just I know that we don't necessarily want to share information about all the individual businesses, but I can say that the town of Fort Smith did access some of the funding. One, to train a casual finance clerk so that we have casual staff who are prepared to come in and step into a position if somebody's on leave. So that's a 3-month term for somebody in the community, as well as we did access some of the remaining funding to support our new HEO position wages this year.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, so then going on to EDAP. Oh, no, that's what we just did. Okay, so then administration. Oh, I didn't. I missed it. I'm looking at it. So advisory board, sorry. Community Service Advisory Board, SAO.
So has not yet been a meeting this month, and last month was the month that they participated in the transportation and the Conner Park projects. So they didn't have a formal meeting last month. So I think EDAB, that's you.
And actually, we met, but there was not quorum. And so that's why there was, we discussed and talked, but there wasn't anything formal. And I haven't brought what we talked, like I can't bring anything up yet. Yeah, so going on then now, we're on administration. And the briefing note from the CRC renovation update. SEO?
Thanks. I'm a little bit nervous about this one. So just did want to give you a bit of an update on the CRC, which we'll also touch a little bit on in the in municipal services, but we are really seeing a lot of work going on at the CRC, and I feel like I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Fingers crossed. But I wanted to touch base in regards to some changes to the scope of work that occurred since the original contract was issued. So the seniors room and library book drop and relocation of washrooms upstairs, the ceiling to make the fitness room which is now part of the daycare, only 1 story, and reconfiguration of the admin area in the library. There was increased funding for that due to that change in the scope of work. Changing the layout upstairs for the multi-purpose room / curling lounge, as well as making the back stairs accessible for after hours uses and exit. That was a change in scope of work and required additional funds. We had some cosmetic upgrades to the curling rink that were added. The outside of the scope of work there was a requirement for more cubbies in the daycare as well as the washer and dryer. The shutter in the library to secure the library, one of the things that we, really talked about with the fire marshal was the need to have that second point of egress plus access to the elevator for events that are happening upstairs that are after hours from the library closing. But we also want to be able to secure the library area. So a shutter sliding wall thing was added to the scope. When they were prepping to put in the entrance to the childcare center, there was we came to understand that the bricks on that side of the building in the lower part of the facade were basically crumbling out and that water was getting behind them. So those were pulled down and we're going to be putting siding there that will match the new siding that will go on the outside of the seniors room. So again, there was cost to that. So the amount allocated to the project to date is $4 million. Sorry, that's a big number. $4,712,101, and the total allocated spending to date is $4,631,112. The remaining budget is $80,998. At this point, the part of the scope of the project that is still outstanding is FF&E, so furniture and finishings and equipment. We've worked with the design team around that and to prioritize our purchases and trying to get our budget under $100,000. Obviously, we don't have that much remaining, but we do have a number of things that we need to purchase. We continue to look for external funding. We do have some funding that came in from the anti-poverty fund while I was on leave for $25,000, but that is meant to go to support community access to internet and computers. So it will help to offset some of the costs of computers and a printer, community printer in the library, which was part of the original FF&E. So we're trying to keep those prices down. And one of our ways to do that is to ask the designer and contractor to try and source as much of it as possible locally. So things like, it's very late. Appliances, thank you. Appliances and tables and chairs. If we can source those from local vendors, we're hoping that will help to bring some of the costs down. But we've also had some other issues come up. One of them is covered in this briefing note. The other one came up post this briefing note while I was on leave. So throughout the retrofit, the need to make repairs to the air handling unit in the pool has come to light as a priority. So if any of you have used the pool, you'll know that it is extremely, extremely, extremely loud in there. So that air handling unit was designed for the pool and an arena extension. And so what we're doing is we're using that air handling unit as if that was in existence. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so incredibly loud. And there's no dampening, there's no no adjustments to it. And at this point in time, it's kind of becoming, it's not well maintained. It's kind of becoming a problem, a significant problem for us, as well as some of the heating issues that go with that and heat pumps. We have asked the current contractor for a quote to identify whether we'd like to add this to the scope of work, and they're looking at about $45,000. There is an O&M fund for the pool for repair and maintenance to pool equipment and building. So the pool equipment would be $15,000. I don't know that this would fall under repair and maintenance of the building. I'm not sure how the auditor would feel about that, if this would be equipment or if we could call this repair and maintenance to the building. But equipment versus building, right? It gets a piece of equipment in the building. So we have $15,000 in O&M funding, so we could potentially use that $15,000 in to help offset these costs. But that would be the maximum. That would be the end of our O&M for that facility. So what we're asking for at this point in time, but I want to add to it, is $65,000 additional funds to go from CPI to the CRC renovation to finish the furnishings, as well as to now expand the scope to cover dealing with the air handling unit. However, in the time since I wrote this briefing note and when I was on leave, we had the curling rink ice plant shut off and the ice melted. And where do you think it went? It went into the electrical room. So despite the work that we did to caulk the surface, that does not appear to be the issue. It actually appears to be related to the drainage system. So I know that previously there was some discussion about whether or not this was a result of spring melt versus the ice surface melting, but I think it's pretty clear that this is related to the ice surface melting. So there is some repairs that are going to have to happen with that drainage system, as well as the floor around that area where the water has constantly been pooling for the last, I don't know how long. I did ask the current contractor to work up a quote like on Friday when I was out of my available to talk to him, but at this point, obviously he hasn't gotten me one at this point, but that is something we want to have to look at. You know, there's no use doing a huge renovation like this and not correcting these obvious areas of concern. I will bring that to you as an additional briefing note when I have that quote, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that moving forward. So my recommendation is that an additional $65,000 be allocated from CPI, so the Community Public Infrastructure Fund, to the CRC Renovation Capital Fund to cover the cost of FF&E and the repairs, upgrades to the pool, air handling unit, and heating.
All right, thank you. So I think we need a motion so we can talk about this. So if I could get someone to recommend this. It's a motion. I just need someone to do it so we can talk.
Carry on here. I move that we make an additional $65,000 allocation from CPI to the CRC Renovation Capital Fund to cover the cost of FF&E and upgrades, repairs to the pool, air handling unit, and heating.
Seconder. Second by Councillor Bolio. Discussion. Councillor Campbell.
Okay, this air handling unit, what's the delivery time on a new air handling unit? And the other question, do we have an engineered report on this air handling unit that say it's too big? Because we change the sheaves and slow down the rotation of everything and quieten it down, put some silencing insulation on there? Thanks.
I also have something I just want to add to that. In regards to air handling units, if we're taking off like a superior product that is larger than what our means are to replace it with a smaller one, to only then later maybe need a larger one, would this be counterintuitive to the need of that building?
So I believe, I'm sorry, I should have the email open and I do not. I believe it's not actually about replacing the air handling unit. It's putting some systems in to allow us to modulate how much it's running. So it's not, I don't think we're taking that one off. I think what we're doing is we're modifying how it's working to make it actually work in a more efficient way for the facility and based on the needs of the facility, rather than running. Right now, it only runs full out. And so I do have a report from an independent contractor on that, that they had somebody come in and assess it. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Go back to my first question. Did we have an engineer come in here and assess the air handling unit? Not because everybody could have a different idea. Thanks.
Aseo?
No, but if council would like to give me some funds to do that assessment with an engineer, I'd be happy to do that. But that would require additional funds as well. I don't know how much. I'd have to get a quote.
What was the report that you were given from previous? What was that from? Was it from an engineer or contract? Like who gave the report about the air top unit?
This is from Look HVAC Systems, which is the system, which is the contractor that we've often used for these, for this system.
Council Campbell?
Yeah, Randy, look, he's an engineer, not an engineer, I should say, he's an electrician. And I still want to see get an independent engineer in there to assess it, because all we seem to be doing is spending money on it at somebody's word. Thank you.
Okay, SAO?
I'm certainly happy to do that if you would like. I just want to be, I don't know if all the counselors have ever been in the pool, but we've had it assessed in regards to noise volume. And as it currently is set up, we're on the verge of that being too high for the environment, making it a WSCC issue. And it makes it very difficult for us to, it has always made it very difficult for us to manage safety in the pool, because it's hard for patrons and kids in swimming lessons to hear the lifeguarding staff. So that is, I mean, I think it's, if council would like us to get another opinion, we're happy to do that, but it has always been a significant issue. If this is a way to address it, I would like council to really think about it, because it has always been problematic. Like you can't, I've been a teacher in that pool. I've been a lifeguard on that deck. It's very challenging to work, to do your job in that environment because of the volume.
Okay, thank you, SAO. Council Campbell?
Yes, I know it's very noisy. That's why I'm saying if we get an independent engineer or somebody in there to verify it, because we could change the ship, probably what they're talking about, changing not ships, the pulleys and everything, and insulating the interior of the air handling unit and put some turning vanes. It'll slow the air down and it'll quieten it down quite a bit. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Carroll has a question.
Should we, if this is approved, taking the 65,000 from the CPI, what will that take away from in the overall budget for our capital?
SAO?
At this point in time, we have room in the capital plan budget for this. We have excess, as well as I've been working with Gavin at MACA to identify projects that we could shift over to gas tax versus CPI, because gas tax is a bit more restrictive, but we do get more gas tax funding than we do CPI funding. I shouldn't say that. We have more gas tax in the bank than we do CPI.
Great, thank you. Is there any other questions and discussion? Deputy Mayor?
I agree with Councillor Campbell that we should take another look at this. His solution of slowing down the flow of air by changing the shivs makes perfect sense. Big shiv driving small shiv is lots of speed. Shiv's the same size as one-on-one. Little.
I don't know. Were you speaking English?
Like baffles.
No.
Okay,
Okay,
Councilor Campbell.
After I'm reading this thing, there's variable speed motors in there.
Okay.
So now it makes more sense what they're doing. They're not changing the air handling unit at all. They're trying to do what I was just asking. They're trying to bring it down with variable speed motor. It just sounded like we had no maintenance and had the variables, the old one, nothing working. So now I'm not as up. I thought we were replacing the old air handler and everything. It makes more sense what they're doing now.
Council or Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Campbell. As usual, we, should have these discussions when it comes to this project. It has to come to an end at some point. Thank you.
I just had one more comment. So are these motor controls that you're putting on, if you ever have an expansion where you require that to be a larger capacity use now, it can increase that volume of air use?
understanding.
You-
Variable speed.
You could go back to the old same way and get the speed back up with the variable. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
With the variable speed, you could move it back up and you could adjust it. It just sounded like some of those pumps and the tilt wheel and it's in there is not working. So they're going to replace all that and get it working. It will go back to the same system if we do need it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I should have just given you the email to start.
All right. So I guess then we have a motion on the we have a motion to for the additional 65,000 be allocated from the CPI with a mover and a seconder. If there is no more discussion, okay, Mayor.
Okay, yeah, just one. It's when we're getting into our facilities like this or building facilities in there, we really need an architect up front. I can't go by planning as it goes. This is where we get our trouble. Is we need the right thing for it. Now we got a big unit and like I don't know. We still need to deal with the generator in there. The power plant, like we still need to do with that. It just when we start getting into stuff like this, we need to go right through it as council, and answer every part of it so that we don't get caught up in like we have no money here and that money is supposed to be allocated over there. Now you're taking off my other budget. It's just like it gets confusing. And it's just hey, fire hall, don't go there.
All
See, already you're boring enough. But anyway, no, that's all I wanted to say. That and maintenance. It sounded like they were getting no maintenance here. Like there's contractors out there every year do the furnaces, the filters, everything. Your vehicles. Like I want to go through that so much. I know we have a safety thing coming up. I think it's this week or something. Yeah, like even if the vehicles walk around and check out your truck and you're washing your truck off, wash the engine off. Everything's got to come really in line here. It's because by no maintenance, it's costing us a bigger money down the road, which we don't have for because we already planned it in the previous year for something else, and then we're going backwards again. We really need to get a handle on this one. So not on this, but on going forward, everything, so that it becomes in time with the new mayor and council that it's just maintenance. It's just you do it this time, you do this that time. It just everything flows good, and that's where I want to get to. And that's a system that I'd like to get into here. Is an automatic system of everything that we got. It just
I want to
rolls
just bring
out.
it back to where we're on here. Let's bring it back to what we're talking about here.
Okay, what were we talking about now?
I have a motion on the table. I want, if there's no more discussion. Okay, Councillor Campbell.
Did they give us a completion date? Pretty hard to with ordering these motors and everything. Probably 16 to 20 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was really going to be dependent on supply at this point. Yeah.
Councillor Campbell.
So this initial, before we get onto this change, what about the completion date on our existing rec center?
SAO.
Yeah, we're still shooting for before the end of the calendar year. We're anticipating that we were anticipating flooring of the library that was supposed to start last week. Unfortunately, the installer had a personal emergency, so they're behind on that. But we're still anticipating to be done and having hopefully the library moving in the fall, and then the daycare facility would be done around that time as well. And then the last bits and pieces are sound baffling or in the gym and finishing up the change rooms, which they've been framing the change rooms in over the last few days and taking all the tile out of there. So it still looks to be on early to late fall.
Thank you, SAO. Councillor Campbell?
Okay, one last question here. Are our contractors that are coming in doing the floors, doing the controls and all that stuff, are they staying, do we have a policy where they have to stay in approved motels, hotels, accommodations?
Part of our RFP for anything that we put out is that contractors cannot create their own. So like when Rose was doing the highway in Alberta, they had their encampment out there. Contractors are not supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be accessing local facilities and services and grocery stores and stuff like that to ensure that we're getting additional economic benefits from having external contractors or workers come in.
Thank you, SAO. All right, so any more discussion? Okay, so then we'll put it to vote. All in favor? Those opposed? Abstention? You're not voting? Mayor? I need to know what you're doing. Okay, so then that's all in favor. Motion carried. All right, so then the next thing we're going to,
I move that Emily Colucci be appointed as acting SAO from April 29th, 2022, 5 p.m. until May 10th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m.
seconder, Louise, Councilor Bolio. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Housing study,
I move that the council engage with the Housing NWT to develop a community housing plan.
second by Councilor Campbell. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. SAO?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
Sorry, this came in very late, but it is for a request for a donation for an event that somebody's trying to put together for next month. I believe May 20th is the date. I have no idea. Jenny Cummings has approached us about helping to support having Don Burnstick come down and do some shows to lift the spirits of the community. What they're proposing is one adult show and one family-friendly show. I'm not sure Don Burnstick does family-friendly, but all right. Not that I've ever heard of his stuff, but they are approaching us as well as the Indigenous government, and I believe they have some support from local businesses. We're donating rooms and flights, I believe. So the overall cost is $10,000. I'm not sure what other organizations are supplying to her, but I know that she has requested the use of the rec center gymnasium for the family-friendly show. That's not a possibility because of the renovations. We could potentially offer the arena. It's a better sound, and also, yeah, the gym sound is terrible. The arena has better sound baffling and could hold more people. Your budget for donations is $6,500 a year. You've already donated $1,000 to the Thabacha Tim Mushers Association for the dog races. That was the last budget. The $750 that you provided to Kat for her trip to Yukon Quest was from the last year's budget. You will get requests for support from numerous other groups during the year. So you have $6,500, but it's typically close to spent by the end of the year, by the end of a typical year, which we can, fingers crossed, hope that this will be in regards to events. You did not use the $5,000 for frolics this year. That could be reallocated if you wanted. I would suggest that if you're thinking about that, you might want to hold a bit of that back because you may want to provide it if there is a music festival this summer. He's just like, I want to say it, but I'm stealing your thunder, man. So if there's a music festival this summer, you may want to hold some of that back because the music festival allocation is only $2,500. That's all I got.
Thank you. I didn't see that. Did we have that briefing?
Just
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. All right. Is there any?
It's just a letter.
Okay. Is there any other discussion for this? Oh, we didn't move. Oh, can I have a mover, please?
I'll make a motion that we discuss this.
You can just randomly give a number to Billy.
I move that we donate $500 to see this Birdsend guy.
I need a seconder, please. Councillor Tucky, I like discussion. All right, Councillor Crowe.
Do you know if there's going to be admission charge to these to offset any costs?
SAO.
We don't have any of that information. My understanding was it was meant to be an open show to the community to, try and raise spirits after this last couple of months that we have seen so much loss in the community and as we're coming out of our COVID lockdown. But yes, I think that would be a very different scenario if there's admission charged.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Campbell?
So they just want to have one show in one of the facilities. So how did all the town of Fort Smith get into the rec center arena for one show? I know it might be on a long weekend, but we still have a lot of people out there that probably want to come in there and see it. But for one show, we're going to restrain a lot of people from not showing up.
SAO.
So my understanding is they're going to have an adult show at Roaring Rapids, which is still a relatively small venue. And then the arena, I think the floor service, we can have 500 or it might be 7. I was going to say 750, 794 on the ice surface. There you go.
I recently had a conversation with the fire marshal in regards to the music festival. Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, like the Roaring Rapids Hall is going to be too tiny. And I'm not really for this if it's just going to be held at. We need 3 or 4 shows just to get the whole Fort Smith involved in it, not just one show and they can't be charging admission. We have to find out more things before I vote on this.
All right. Any other discussion? I just want to correct that it's only 740. I just looked. But 80 in your mezzanine and various other change rooms.
It is, so what we saw, and the request should be on your desk somewhere. This email, no, anyway, it's $5,000 a show. So it does seem unlikely that they would do more than a couple of shows. Exactly. These are very good questions, but this is what we know is it's $5,000 a show. They're anticipating only doing 2 shows.
I just have a question. This is a comedian. Does he do like any community wellness kind of work with kids? He doesn't do that at all? Like he can't do that? I know he's raised C and it's not PG-13, but some of those folks do really engagement in school activities and stuff. I don't know. I'm just wondering if they could partner some of the costs for this to bring him in if he was going to also do something else.
So again, from my understanding is it's just purely for these 2 shows. He's not touted as as an individual who goes and does like addictions discussions or, any of that kind of stuff. I mean, not, that's not what he's necessarily touted for, but he's just a funny guy, racy, funny guy.
All right. Well, if there's any other, okay, Mr. Councilor Tucky.
So basically, what is she exactly asking for in terms of donations? What are they asking us to cover? Are they doing any fundraising they say they're doing fundraising, they have airline tickets and accommodations. Are they doing any fundraising to pay for the shows?
Aseo?
I don't know, other than they have approached the other governments, like the 3 Indigenous governments, is my understanding. I think what they're hoping is that we can provide a venue for the family show as well as a financial donation of whatever we can afford.
Is a financial thing to pay for his fee? Is that what it's a fee? Okay.
And I believe they're going to be fundraising. It's just tonight, she needs to call him and get an answer if we're going to go with it, because he's booked up already. So that's why the crunch is on. But I imagine they're going to be fundraising throughout the time that to bring him here. And also they are going to the other leadership for funding, as it's a community event.
All right. Councilor Campbell?
Well, I have a hard time voting on this to give any funds out, really. I just made the motion so we could talk, but we're not getting the bang for our buck putting it into the Roaring Rapids Hall, having only one show. We're supposed to be healing the community. People be standing outside trying to listen to music, but we're not healing that way. And the kids, well, maybe they all fit into the arena, but I just have a hard time voting in favor of this because there's so many what ifs and unclear answers. Are they going to charge us at the door, or what's going to happen? The community is paying twice in. Thanks.
I just have a comment too. Is this a licensed liquor event?
No,
No.
No.
And
fun. It's just a fun event, and there's no liquor provided for this, nor will she want to do that. So.
all right. Councilor Polio, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused. Did she go to the leadership yet, or is she in the process of doing that?
She's in the process of doing that.
Okay, just to clarify then, the Roaring Rapids Hall has not been booked yet because she has to go through the leadership first to say that she is booking the Roaring Rapids Hall.
I'm not sure. I believe she may have it. She just phones him. I don't think the president or whatever deals with that stuff, but I think she probably got it already. Asking us for the rank or the rec, which you cannot do. The only thing is the arena, which I have a problem with, is do we have heat in there? We do. Okay, then there's no more problem. The only problem the problem was it was just 500 to get this talk going. I'd probably want to raise that up to $1,500 since it's a community event, and rather than not putting down dog racing or whatever was a community event, I think this is the time that Fort Smith could use something, and this individual is trying their best to put this on, so I have no problem supporting it.
Thank you.
The reason I asked if she went to leadership is because I sit on the council for Métis, and we haven't been approached.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just basically, was it today that she got the letter last night? When she had got the letter, we texted off, and here it is. So I'm sure she's in that process with leaders. I know Smith Landing leader is not here. He's sick. I'm not sure about the rest of them. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor?
These individuals have raised thousands of dollars for people in this community to help them when they went out for times of need. They've assisted people with cancer, assisted funds when they went out and that. And they raised it for all citizens of the community, different people that was out there. These people have a very good reputation of doing things for the community. They were involved at the Christmas activities and that. I think before we vote on this, we can have that conversation with her and just get some of the questions asked. The simple questions, are you gonna charge an admission fee? What is the venue that's for adults? What is the one for the children and the parents? Get some of those questions asked and then on it. And, get that clear. And their reputation is something we got to look at and look at what they've done for the community. This is another gesture to help the community through some troubled times. I believe there's been, 11 people died in the last short while here in the community. 12 people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And her goal is to get people together, get some laughing, bring people back after the COVID and everything, and get them into different venues. And I think what we should do is make every effort to get the questions asked them and also give her the support that they've been given to the community as supporting people in times of needs. Thank you.
Thank you. SAO first.
I could certainly ask her not me, I could have the director ask her these questions tomorrow and then provide you guys with an email on this. And you could because I know that she needs to get this done ASAP. You could do an electronic motion and vote on it with a number that maybe is $500, maybe it's more. I don't know. That's kind of up to you guys. I don't think it's unreasonable for her to charge admission if she's unable to fundraise the entire $10,000. Obviously, she can't be out of pocket for this. So if you wanted to identify using the arena for show, that would be in kind. And what would happen is that we would take the cost of that from your donation budget to put it as revenue to the arena. And then if you wanted to do a cash donation to cover the cost of the shows, the performers' fees, you can do that as well. And that would be the total amount of the donation. I can't give you, for an adult rental for an hour, what is it, 145? No. 136. So if it was a 2-hour show, you'd be looking at, $272. I did that in my head.
They'll need other things like the stage that needs set up.
Yeah, but we would just that would all be included in the fee, right? So, yeah, staff, but that's covered as part of the fee, right? As part of the user fee. So, and if it's not a liquor event, it's a little bit less stressful for us because we can use a wider range of staff. But I can certainly ask her the questions about, how will you engage the whole community? What will be the conditions under which you charge an admission fee? And what other fundraising are you intending to do? She does, I have the email open right here. She does intend to do other fundraising because she recognizes that she can't ask us for $10,000. But they already have the hotel and the plane ticket donated. So that's a good start to getting him here and reducing costs.
Thank you. Yeah. Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Herron. That family does a lot of fundraising for everybody in this town, but there's some questions to be answered. And if I could amend my motion to say that we're going to support her starting off till we get the questions answered, why don't we give her the arena for the adult one? Because then we get more people in there, and the kids one instead of the Roaring Rapids Hall. Then we get more in there, and then they're not moving all their facilities over to the other one. And that's if they don't take it, it doesn't happen. Don't happen. But we could put this out in kind, just get it started. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so the motion on the floor is that we're going to settle this via email tomorrow once the answers the questions are answered.
So I think it can happen one of two ways. You can formalize your, confirm the motion that you want to make. So in-kind donation of the arena for both shows and or a cash donation of some amount that you all agree on, or that the person making the motion agrees on. I don't know if Councillor Campbell wants to amend the amount or not. And then you could vote on it once we get you the responses, or a new motion could be made tomorrow by someone.
All right.
But it might be easier just to make the motion now, and then we can send you that motion.
Okay, I move that we make a motion that we give the arena in-kind donation to this individual for the Bernstein thing, for the adult one and the children one, so we get more people in there. And after she answers some questions here, and I make a motion that we donate $2,500 towards them.
All right. And then who seconded that? Councillor Tucky, do you agree with the amended motion?
I agree.
And need more discussion, SEO?
Sorry, could I recommend then that if you're going to make a donation of that size, that you might want to reallocate the funds from the music or from the Frolics fund to the donations budget to cover this? Otherwise, you're going to expend your donations budget a little bit fast.
All right. So that'll be in the motion then?
Yeah, so you want it.
So the motion would say that we are going to allocate the funds from the Frolics 2,500 to this fundraising initiative for the Don Bernstein.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll clean that up.
And
for
then,
you.
okay.
Same as what she just said.
Yeah. All right. And so now discussion. So can we then, someone can table this till tomorrow? Can we do that? You want to vote on it? Oh, sure. Let's vote on it.
No, we want the answer.
We want some question answer.
Oh.
You could vote on it.
Okay. So I will vote on it. And if we do not have a vote, like a successful vote, we'll go to email tomorrow. Yeah. Like a successful, like it carried, like if it all in favor and it wins, it wins. You can't do that? Why?
You can't vote on the same motion
Can't vote
twice.
twice.
Oh,
You gotta decide you're tabling this to.
Okay.
You're tabling this to tomorrow, once I get you this additional information, or you're voting on it.
so you guys want me to
Yep.
call this to a vote right now?
So
Just a
we have
second.
to make a motion to table it.
I'll make a motion that we table it till we get some answers on the thing before we give that kind of money out.
Okay.
On that.
Seconder? Okay, Deputy Mayor? All in favor? All right, so we'll talk about that tomorrow in an email. So now we're on to, wasn't there some additions? There was additions. That was it? Those were the two things?
I recommend that we excuse Councillor McDonald and Pissinger from this meeting.
Hey, discussion or all in favor? All right, motion carried. So now is the date of the next meeting, which is of the Community Service Standing Committee will be held on May 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
I move that we adjourn this meeting at 9:40 p.m.
Second. Tucky, all in favor? Kevin, done. Oh, your mic's on, Kevin. Is he saying?
You have to open the meeting and then recess it for 5 minutes.
I call the meeting to order. Do you want to break here for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we take a 5-minute break before we have our next meeting.
I'll second.
Yep.
I thought it was your taxes.
Yes.
I'm on camera?
You're on camera.
Okay. The Municipal Services Standing Committee called to order. Any delegation? None. Agenda. Any mover?
I'll move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
All in favor? Oh, discussion.
Sorry, I'm just having a mental break.
Oh,
Can we add, Mr. Chair? Sorry, can we add a home occupation briefing note? As well as our community public infrastructure funding briefing note? And I believe that's it for additions.
home occupation. Where are we putting it?
We could just put it right after the zero turning riding mower. So it would be 1, 2, C, and then D, and then E would be the community energy plan.
Okay, the mover,
I will accept it as amended.
seconder? Okay, all in favor? Okay, the minutes from the Municipal Service Standing Committee, March 8th. And we already adopted them. The visions and values were reviewed. 2021 capital plan was reviewed. Oh, sorry. SAO.
Sorry, and that should say the 2022 capital plan, but I would love to give council a bit of a brief update for the first quarter if you'd like.
Okay, thanks.
So I'll just go. We're still working on our slope stability design. Right now, we're just awaiting a report on the monitoring solutions and costs for implementing monitoring of the slope. Transportation master plan will be completed and presented to council in May. Our IT upgrade work, you can see your giant screens here to make council presentations more accessible to the community. As well as we're developing the scope of work to have all of the facilities, all of the town's facilities on the same network. Our human resource project, we've done our performance appraisal tool, and we're just working with the contractor to schedule training on doing performance appraisals for supervisors and directors. We've met with MACA staff to review their asset management system and are scheduling a session to review the system that is currently offered through our municipal financing program, which is already integrated there. The water truck fill station tender has been awarded. The water treatment upgrades, so the facilities, particularly to the raw water intake and the main lift station, were tendered, awarded. And we have asked for them to expand the scope to include the water tower. So there will be that will be assessed as well. And they're here this week doing that. They came in yesterday and started the assessments today, and will be gone by the end of the week. So they've done doing the physical assessments. Water treatment system upgrade. So this is the operational systems within our water treatment network, and so we're currently developing the scope and prioritizing which system upgrades need to be made in which order over the next few years, and firming up a budget for that work. The tractor tender is closed. There's a briefing note here on that. The riding mower tender is closed. A briefing note here for that. The tender is going out tomorrow for the road paving. The multi-hog tender was awarded. We are awaiting the arrival of the columbarium for the cemetery, which should be coming in May. Thankfully not April, which was what we originally thought in the snow. So it'll be coming in May. Energy plan is to council for tonight for adoption. We're waiting to hear back from MACA regarding ICIP funding for the Snowport Park and lookout development. The community recreation center, again, flooring for the library was supposed to start last week, but unfortunately that hasn't happened, and they're looking for a replacement installer. We have seen cabinets go into the kitchen of the daycare and in the upstairs multi-purpose room. We're seeing work being done on the change rooms. So again, we're hoping to see some movement to getting the library located to the rec center or the community center, hopefully by the end of summer, early in the fall, which is good because the current library is flooding. So the current library and the curling rink are causing flooding issues. Connor Park project's ongoing. We're awaiting a proposal from the design, the consultants that we're currently working with to determine what the cost would be for them to prepare construction-ready drawings to build the stage and the washrooms. We had requested ITI to extend our funding for this project, and the response that we've received from them is I'm going to be blunt, basically finish the work now or give us $27,000 back. So we've had this funding for less than a year for this design project, and they don't seem to be willing to extend it. And this is interesting because we have an employee who works for us who got a phone call from ITI offering him a position. So the funding that we were receiving for his position is no longer going to be readily available to us. So I'm a little bit disappointed in ITI in regards to their inability to support our projects in the community. As an aside.
Councillor Ferguson?
I'm sorry. Yep. I'm just, are you telling me this, they headhunted an employee from you and then pulled funds?
Well, the funding for that employee is based on the premise that we're in a position to do the work. One of the reasons we knew we were going to be in that position was because we had the ability to. We had people that we knew were going to apply in the position. At this point in time, that funding year is done. We don't have anybody in the position. We'd have to run another competition and apply for the funding again. So it just becomes more challenging. They're making it much more administratively challenging for us. But my bigger problem is they're not extending my funding for the Connor Park project. But I just wanted to throw that other thing in.
Can I ask a question? Can we ask the manager of ITI come talk to us and say why they want to pull the funding so quick?
Yes, we can. Sorry, it's just really frustrating. ITI has been a source of frustration for us for a number of years in regards to getting funding. So, this is a major project for us, and to just not extend this funding is really disappointing.
Well, can we not ask the manager to come in and speak to it? If there's an ongoing problem with this government agency and the town of Fort Smith, maybe if there's a list of items that we can address then and ask the folks to come in and speak to us, maybe not like the individual employee, but like the folk who's the minister in charge of ITI. I'm just really tired of anyway, if it's Simpson or say, they should be supporting our local community, not making it more difficult for us to, I can't speak.
I mean, and ultimately this is a construction style project, and whenever does a construction project finish on time? Like we need to be able to extend this because of a number of reasons. Apparently COVID's not a good enough reason anymore. Sorry, I'll keep going. So our signage and amenities project is ongoing. We were upgrading a number of communications items. So we have our new repeaters that are in the hermetically sealed cases in the water tower. We've replaced all of our handhelds, and we've had portables installed in the fire chief, bylaw, garbage, and pumper trucks to increase our communication with staff that might be working remotely. We are in the process of completing the funding application for fire abatement. So we'll be looking at doing fire abatement around the landfill and around a site that we've asked to lease or asked for fee simple transfer to develop a new fire training site near the landfill. Animal shelter retrofit tender has been awarded. So I think that's all the big projects that are on the go we're finishing up.
Do I need to make a motion to go past 10 o'clock?
should go in 15-minute increments.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we extend the meeting to 10:15.
I'll
Seconder?
second.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
All in favor? Okay, all those plans, director's report.
Okay, so I stole some of the director's report from my capital plan. Unfortunately, the director is on crutches and didn't feel comfortable coming down these stairs with his crutches. It's very laid up. Snow removal in preparation for spring melts has been continuing. Thought out some sewer lines recently using the hot sea. Waterworks, Stats Canada biannual drinking water survey has been completed. We're still working on our 2021 year-end licensing report. We have a new chlorine handler at the tower, which has been scheduled for wiring in. Repair and installation of the meters is still ongoing. Water leak at main lift is repaired. The hose bib froze and broke. Facility maintenance, Connor Bear Park upgrade. So we had the supervisor of facility maintenance took some samples of the old theater building, and no asbestos was identified. So we'll be proceeding with getting the tender out for that to get that demolished and removed. As well, we'll also be looking to get the 2 old water treatment buildings removed as well. The derelict buildings that we store stuff in that are full of graffiti. We had the pool mushroom was not functioning for a number of months, so that's been repaired. Rec Center HVAC, we're meeting with the contractor to talk about hair handling deficiencies. Libraries leaking as usual, despite snow removal, which happens every year, and we don't know why that does that. Town hall cleanup and removal of items to the landfill. We've had a number of days of shredding old files, which has been fantastic. The arena ice plant, the compressor failure. We were still able to allow figure skating to happen, but the ice was certainly getting soft, and so it was shut down by Simcoe on April 5th. 7 Bay Public Works Garage, the contractor supplied the aerial work platform and facility maintenance cleared snow and ice from the roof at the Public Works Garage. And that is the director's report.
Thank you for that report. Any questions? Councillor Crowe?
Just a question. I've had several comments and phone calls and texts, etc., due to the lack of garbage pickup for a couple Fridays. And then last Friday, it was not communicated that there was no garbage pickup, but then yesterday they did a catch up and that wasn't communicated. So today, when people put their cans out, there was again no pickup today. And I know because of the Good Friday, it's moved to this Thursday. So there's a lot of disgruntled constituents because they have not had a really good communication of when to expect to have their refuse picked up.
Ms. White?
So all of those cancellations, in fact, were communicated in the only way we have ability to do so, which is on Facebook. We don't really have a way to communicate to the general public in a timely fashion. They were also posted on the website, I believe. So all of those cancellations, in fact, were communicated. It was the garbage collection today. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So what is occurring, and disgruntled employees or disgruntled citizens, we apologize, but unfortunately we've had a number of staff members who've been unwell and we can't send them out to do garbage collection. So what we're trying to do is go to the next possible day when we have 2 staff available to do the garbage collection. So we will, today's didn't happen because again, one of the employees was unwell and didn't come into work. So Thursday will be garbage collection this week. But at this point in time, we're struggling with getting staff onto the truck, which is another great reason to go to a different style of garbage collection.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Daniels?
Just food for thought. Maybe we should take a look at, I know there's that bulletin board at the rec there. Perhaps we should have one here too, since it's our main drag of telling us what's going to be occurring.
Like a video?
Yeah, or I don't know, video or yeah, the sign. It's all lit up. Just type it all in there from computer, I guess. I'm not sure. So,
I could probably, the Legion has offered us that before. So if you approach Dennis, he would put messages on, because they offered that to us.
Just FYI, one of those signs costs about $20,000, and that's only one side. So if you want a double-sided sign, it's like $35,000.
Okay, I'd like to pull that back now.
Oh,
The Legion,
okay. Thank you for that report, the protective service report.
okay, just say,
Oh, sorry.
or. Okay, the lady at the ITI who just took over, I don't know what her position there is, whatever, but I think she should come before us. Because before, when the superintendent was in there, was supposed to be here, that took years and years to get over it. So I thought that would be fixed by the new person coming in here. Obviously it's not, so obviously we have to meet. So, and on a where are we?
Thank you. I think we already have a motion for that.
I would like to say it is a much better relationship. It's just these two instances very close together are super disappointing for us and demoralizing a little bit.
Thank you. Well, we're gonna have meet and greet. We should have the new manager of Housing Authority here too, because I think that'll be great to have her here, and her little voice should be just hyper.
Also, if we meet and greet, just get the president's office at the Royal College.
Yes, everybody. Okay, protective services report.
I won't go too much into, I would like to move us along. Fires, nothing unusual going on in the fire area. We did have another call out for a carbon monoxide detector alarm. So somebody's carbon monoxide detector is working. Good job. Ambulance, you'll see this very lengthy list of ambulance calls, and that on some of these days, let's see, March 29th, for instance, there are 4 call outs. March 22nd, there are 4 call outs. March 18th, there are 4 call outs. March 7th, there are 4 call outs. March 6th, I think there are 4 call outs. And so basically, there is well above 1 call out, an average of 1 call out per day for our ambulance services. I did speak to the director of protective services in regards to what other personnel support might be beneficial, and we're exploring that further to see if that's something we can make work, or what value that would add to the service. Bylaw. Some bylaw action there. Bylaw did take the remainder of dogs. I think he took 7 dogs down to Red Deer. Some of them were from the property where we did our large seizure. And some of them were additional dogs that were surrendered. So those dogs all went down. We know there's 1 dog left at that house, and we can't catch it. It's very wild. And you can see lots of speeding action addressed as well. Yeah. That's all I'll give you for that.
Thank you, and a good report. Advisory boards, Substantial Development Advisory Board. The minutes were reviewed.
Send for, and I think out of this comes the energy plan. This would normally be Councillor McDonald's advisory board, but he is not here. So if anybody has questions about the minutes, I think myself or Ms. James, AJ could answer those. But if no questions, don't worry about it.
Any questions? Moving on then, administration.
Did you stay the whole time for questions? Oh, okay.
Okay, tractor, we need a motion.
I move that council approve the capital expenditure of $85,725 to purchase a tractor from Lou Small Engine.
I'll second that.
All in favor or questions?
Is this a budgeted item? It's below the, okay.
Any further questions? Mayor Daniels?
No, is this the tractor that we need? Or is this like one under or whatever? Like, did we hit bullseye with this tractor?
Ms. White,
This is the tractor we need to be able to pull the drag mower that we have, as well as do the other work that we use a tractor for. One of those is getting the ice out of the arena, etc.
Okay, no, I just didn't want to like get something too small and then dealing again, like, holy smoke, what do I do?
No, this is what the director has asked for.
any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay. You'll abstain? Councillor Heron abstains? Okay, zero turning riding more.
I'll make a recommendation that the council approve the capital expenditure of $18,663 to purchase a riding mower from CAM's Husqvarna Sales and Service, that council allocate the additional $3,663 from CPI for the purchase of the riding motor.
Seconder? Councillor Bullion? Questions? So this is the top what the budgeted for, right? There's extra.
15,000 is what it was budgeted for. That's the need for
Okay.
3,600 additional dollars.
Okay, all in favor? Passed on unanimously. Home occupation business.
I move or recommend that DPA-010-22 submitted by Matthew Walsh to operate a home occupation business, Walsh's Heavy Duty Repairs Limited, from Lot 678, Plan 358, 44 Pelican Street in Fort Smith, be approved.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Can I ask a question?
Maybe I'll just
Okay.
yes, so the development officer, lands and development officer has spoken to Mr. Walsh, who is the owner of the home. There's no intention for him to do any work on site. He does have a mobile truck that he'll be using, and all of his equipment will be stored in the mobile truck. He is aware that the property is not to be used for industrial purposes or commercial purposes on site, and that the unsightly property bylaw will be put in effect. His intention is that this should not have any implications, negative implications for his neighbors. Again, he will be going to work sites with his work truck.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor? Okay, moving on. Funding agreement, community public infrastructure funding.
I'll recommend that the council approves the CPI funding contribution agreement with MACA for the fiscal year of 2022-2023 in the amount of $446,000.
I'll second.
Councillor Tucky. Questions? Seeing no questions, all in favor? Passed unanimously. And one more, home occupation. No. Expression of interest. Expression of interest.
Oh. I'll move that council adopt Patty Heidema to the Development Appeal Board. Is this a year? 2 year? Do we specify? Okay, I will just appoint her to the Development Appeal Board.
Doesn't it go through the end of our term? Yeah. The council term.
Yeah. Can I just...
Okay, Ms. White.
Sorry, thank you. I believe that council identified some councillors who would review expressions of interest to ensure that they were appointing people to the boards in a way that made sure it represented the community. So there are 2 expressions of interest. Yeah, there's one in your package as well. Sorry, who was it? Yes.
So this is just for a discussion piece?
Yes, for you to, they're there, and I think that you have identified some council members who will be doing this review. This is for your review.
Okay.
And then you would bring it back, hopefully, to council next week.
All right, so I'll take that back. I take it back.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, community energy plan. We need a mover. Just,
I move that we adopt or recommend that council adopt the community energy plan as presented.
seconder,
I'll second.
Council Ferguson, all, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Excusing a council member. Oh, sorry.
No, I got nothing. You're good.
Okay, excusing a council member. Rick,
I recommend that we excuse Councillor McDonald and Pissinger from the committee meeting on April 12th.
seconder, Councilor Bolio, all, any questions? All in favor? Date. Yes, go
I
ahead.
just think we should have maybe the energy plan presented to us in a more, and has it been presented to us already? Have we seen it? Oh. Okay, on the same information? Like there's no ads to this?
Essentially, this community energy plan, which was reviewed by the Arctic Energy Alliance, who would be the territorial experts on this, identifies the goals that we talked about, the strategic goal of being a net zero community. And then a lot of it is the data that was collected and the community consultation.
Okay, thanks, I'm good.
Any further questions? Okay,
No,
thank you.
I'm good.
Date of next meeting, Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. Need a recommendation for adjournment.
I recommend that we adjourn the meeting at 10:15 PM.
Seconder? Councillor Tucky? Any questions? All in favor? Thank you.